Hello, my Teaserking family. How is everybody today? I am okay. I'm looking at gold and I'm scratching my head, but we understand it's bullshit. So gold was 33.38, and then Europe. Now Europe's been buying it lately, and they are selling it today, shorting the derivatives. How are they going to pay off when the people want physical? When they, ask for physical, 32.93, 92. Silver 33.02. We know silver is very undervalued, and gold is obviously very undervalued. But we get that. We get comex is fake. It's fixed. It's derivatives. It's not physical, and that's what you got to understand about it. Um, Gold is freedom, and I will share with you a John Stossel where this kid escapes from North Korea, and he really tells you how bad it is there. So all you Bernie Sanders people who want socialism, all you Bitcoiners who want socialism, no, you don't. I mean, there's no freedom, there's no food. Who the hell wants to live like that? Gold gives you freedom because nobody can take it from you. And in North Korea, there was, there was a lot of black market with the money, and then they went in and then the money to zero, and now the money's worthless. And a lot of people went broke because they had the money on the black market and then had to go down. We'll watch John Stossel on this. Anyway, gold, 10 o'clock went up, and then so this is the U.S. playing games with it now, which why would they want it down? The only reason is they want to buy it, and that's what they want to do. So they need to buy it. They need to buy it soon because July 1st coming, and it's going to be really go up. All right. Let's go into baseball. Let's see what happened there. We see in the Russian war, Russia's up 75-0. Ukraine got some new weapon from the West. If the West wants to fight Russia, let them fight Russia. Oh, wait, England, France, and the U.S. have no armies. Zelensky is killing all his own people. It sounds like a freaking idiot. It's a freaking nightmare. The only thing I can think with this war is wars are very expensive. And the only way, what usually happens, like the Civil War, I think the South ran out of money. I mean, usually that's what happens. You run out of arms or you run out of money, and then that ends the war. And so I think they think that they'll just keep fighting until Russia runs out of money. Well, Russia's got 25,000 tons of gold. They're not running out of money. Anybody running out of money, it's France and England and the U.S. who is running out of money. And yes, the U.S. can keep printing and printing and printing, but it doesn't give the dollar value, right? So as they print, and I don't know where they get this, that they can keep printing. They can't keep printing. I mean, I can keep eating chocolate cake, but that's not going to make me thin, and it's not going to make me healthy. It's going to give me diabetes, and I'm going to die because I'm eating all this chocolate cake. But if I keep printing the dollars, where in the hell am I? I'm not. The value is shot. It's already shot, so I can print it. But they did that in 1923 in the Weimar Republic. They kept printing the Reichsmarks. They ended up wallpapering their house with it. It wasn't anything that you could use. So they're wallpapering their house with the Reichsmarks because they had no value. So yes, you can keep printing, but it doesn't mean it has a value, and it's not going to give you a value. That's why gold's freedom, because gold they can't fuck with. They can't print it, so it can't lose its value. And this is how they try to lose their value on comex, by throwing in options to short to get the price down. Yeah, but there's too many people wanting it and too much demand for gold, as every country in the world is buying it but the U.S. And even the U.S. is probably buying it. But Again, comex is such a joke. It's so illegal. It's such a Ponzi scheme. Well, we'll do an option, and that's how we're going to price gold. And the funny part is, but that's how the coin dealers price their gold is on the options. Look, comex says it's 3,200, or it's 3,300 now, 3,290. Well, that's the price we'll use. Like, Jesus, are you stupid? So that's why we go in and we buy and we just laugh. We go, I know it's worth 10,000, and I'm getting it for 3,000. It's like incredible. So sometimes when I spend and I put a little on the credit card, I worry a little bit, and then I go, no, wait, no, you made the right move. So we'll watch this Stossel one. This kid escapes North Korea twice and then comes to America, and he's saying how bad socialism is, how bad North Korea. There's no food there. There's no elections there. It's basically run by the mafia, just a cartel. They tell you what to do. They don't feed you. They put you to work in the mines. It's really a sad state. But how can you overthrow a cartel or a mafia? You need Barzini or Tatalia. You can't get rid of them without another group. And even if you do, the other group's still going to be mafia. So it's a sad state, North Korea. And the funny part is, if you do escape to China, they tell on you. They get a reward. And they just say how bad America is. This is the problem we don't understand. When in North Korea, they say, oh, Americans are a bunch of werewolves. They don't eat. There's no food there. They're just a bunch of killers. And they paint the U.S. as really bad people. And the guy ended up getting a movie, like the James Bond movie and a Will Smith movie. And he goes, hey, wait, they're eating hamburgers. They're driving a nice car. And then they realize, no, it's bullshit. But we'll get to that. All right. So let's look at baseball. All right. And we'll just run through it. Detroit wins 3-1. How the Niners only scored one run off of this pitcher is ridiculous. And Birdsong held Detroit to 3 runs. So Detroit's a mystery. Any decent pitcher they play, they can't hit. I think the manager's horrible. He should be fired just for being a cheat and then lying about it. He should be fired. When you watch them, you realize the manager's in charge and that they would never hit the garbage cans and steal signs without him knowing about it. So he lied first. So he cheats by doing that. And then he lies that, oh, I didn't know what was going on. Do you want to hire a liar and work with a liar and a cheater? I don't. So if I see that, I walk away. So this is what you have managing the team. And then you have 300 hitters on the team, like this Carpenter guy. And then, it's a lefty pitching and he doesn't play. Well, he's a 300 hitter. He's not a 300 hitter. He's a 300 hitter. He should play against righties and lefties. And then you wonder why they score 2 runs, 3 runs, lose to Cleveland because you don't have your best hitters out there, which maybe they're not your best hitters because you think they're your best hitters, but they're only good against righties. So they're really fake. All the hitting is fake because they're only facing one side of the plate. So that's ridiculous. Anyway, Detroit wins 3-1. It was on at like 11 o'clock, so it was on after we started class yesterday. Milwaukee 3, Boston 2. We didn't play that one. That one must have. Oh no, wait, yeah. Milwaukee, Boston. That must have been started also. The Cubs 3, Colorado 1. We have the Cubs. We win. Colorado basically is the worst team in baseball. So you really just are betting against them. And that goes how I bet football. I look for the weak and I bet against the weak. And I look for the strong and I bet against the strong. But my ability is to analyze weak and strong. And that's what I do better than anybody. Baltimore 5, St. Louis 2. We had St. Louis, so we lost. Charlie Morton, 1-7 with the 709, wins 5-2, and that's when you just throw your hands in the air. The guy was 0-7 with the 7 ERA, and you only scored 2 runs off of this guy. Unbelievable. Toronto 2, Texas 1. We have the under as DeGrom was pitching, so that's a winner. The Mets 2, the White Sox 1. We have the Mets because the White Sox stink, but we win on that one. We have KC over 7, and Cincinnati wins 7-4, so that's a winner. We got Cleveland under 7, and they played a 9 with the Dodgers. You got to be careful with the Dodgers; they can hit. I based it on Yakasuma with his 1.97 ERA. Cleveland only got 2 runs, but the Dodgers got 7. Cleveland's got a good bullpen, so I was a little surprised there. Tampa over 8. Tampa wins 7-2. That's a winner against Minnesota. Arizona 5, Pitt nothing. We have Pitt under 9.5. That wins. We have San Diego 4-3. We have San Diego over 7, so that's a push. We have the Yankees 5, California 1, and we have the Yankees 2 units. So yesterday we win with Texas under. We win with the Mets. We win with the Yanks, and we win with the Cubs. We go 4-0. Butte. Every once in a while we nail them. DeGrom was easy. That was under. The Dodgers Cleveland should have stayed under. I'm surprised Cleveland scored on them. Hi, Prophet. They was fine. I ended up, I had already gotten to the pool when we did class, and then I had a roast that I had made, and then I went to the lake and walked around a little bit, and then I did college football week 1, so I will go through that. It's hard because there's all these Division 1 against Division 2 games that you got to ignore. I don't handicap that. I don't handicap Division 2, or as I call them, the high school teams. But otherwise, it was fine. I'm waiting. Like I heard from Daria Sunday. She's confusing always. And then I don't hear from her yesterday. Well, I assume she was going home and that she's home and resting, and I don't hear from her. And I haven't heard from her yet today. And I'm always puzzled by that. And, I think if I'm going to use logic with Daria, if I can, I just think she, when she's with certain people, and I don't think she has a boyfriend. I think I'm the boyfriend. Maybe her family or her mother or somebody. Then she doesn't text me. She's busy. Because at the hospital Saturday she didn't text me, and then Sunday she texted me a lot. That's why when I get text from her, I respond. And so Sunday I did talk to her a lot, and then nothing, so I assume maybe somebody came to the hospital and maybe she doesn't get on the phone, where I do. I mean, I was with Jenna and I was texting Daria. Jenna got pretty upset by it, but that's what happens. So she said, "Who's Daria?" And I said, "Oh, she's my friend." And my problems with like right now, she's online, but she's not responding. But see, online and WhatsApp doesn't necessarily mean she's in WhatsApp. She could be on the phone. She could be checking her email. I know when I'm checking gold, Jenna would say, "Oh, are you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm not been on WhatsApp. I'm checking gold." So yeah. But anyway, so we'll see. Says she's online, but obviously not able to talk to me. But as Stoic is basically Stoic means you can't control anybody else. I can only control myself, and that's why we discuss a lot. Prophet, I watched this show last night where some guy from Detroit went to a casino in Windsor, that would probably be Caesars, and won $33,000, but didn't declare it at the border and lost it. So anything over 10 grand definitely has to be declared. Well, how did they know he had won it? And how did they find it and take it? He could have just said, well, that's what I had in my pocket, 33 grand. So interesting. Did he say, I'm declaring nothing? But what would that trigger the customs guy to look at the 33 grand? Right. And why would they take it? It's his money. So I guess if I won 33 grand, that's why I'm saying to cross the border, uh, you know, are they just checking everybody that crosses the border? I mean, that's what it sounds like. What would have triggered the border to see, oh, this guy, oh, you obviously won money and I want to see it. Because when I go to Caesars in Windsor, I don't go that often now because of the exchange rate. I basically just say, well, I got a couple $100 on me. Maybe it's the way you say it, but I've never been stopped coming back across from Windsor. So I could have won 33 grand. I said, no, I didn't win anything. And maybe it's just the way they believe you. Just having over 10K on you has to be declared. Well, I don't get how they can take it because he didn't declare it does not give them the money. But I'd like to understand how they figured out he had 33 grand on him and that he won it. Was it at the tables or is that a slot machine? But yeah, I mean, again, I've been over the border a lot, and I just say no, I don't have any money, and I could have had $30,000, and they don't check you. They haven't checked me, put it that way. So I don't know, but yeah, if I had your gold bar, I would probably say I've got this, and if there's no tax on it, then what is the point of saying it? Then there's no tax anyway. Yeah, I got this gold bar I want to declare. I guess when you come over, I would simply say, I've got this gold bar that I got from in a will. My girlfriend's father died and he left me a gold bar, and I'm just going to check it out in Detroit or something. Because they will, are you money laundering? Are you doing drugs with it? What are you doing with it? And so I would bring the whole will and say, look, my girlfriend's father died. Here's the will. We got the gold bar, and that's what I'm doing with it. And I'm just checking it out, or I'm whatever. I just want to, try to buy ounces with it. So I don't know. But I don't, how did they know the guy had money on him? He must have done a bad job of explaining to him. At customs on the way back to Detroit, he was searched. Why? So I assume the question in the car was, are you declaring any money? And we said no. Or they said, how much money do you have? He might have said $500. And then they find 33,000. But what made them search the car? That's the key point. Because if you're pretty calm, are they going to search every car? Usually there's a tell that they look at and they go, he's lying. I'm going to search the car. I was going to London, Ontario just for a vacation once. Just because it's like 2 hours away and I didn't want to drive to Toronto. And, do you have any firearms or drugs? And I just kind of laughed. I said, no, what are you talking about? And they searched my car and I just kind of laughed like, what the fuck are you doing? I don't have any, and looking through all the cracks, and they made me go inside and wait at passport control, and I go, "What the fuck's going on here?" And oh, just a random search, and I'm like, "Fuck you!" I mean, there was nothing to find because I didn't have anything. Yeah, I'm coming into Canada to what, sell drugs? I mean, yeah, okay, whatever. He claimed he didn't know cash had to be declared. Well, the question was, did they ask him, do you have, normally they say, how much money do you have? Or they'll ask you about money when you cross the border, and they'll say, how much money do you have? Or do you have any money or something like that? Normally you don't have much because you're using your debit and credit card. So I'm not going to carry it, I'm not going to carry $5,000 across the border. Usually I have 600 because hotel is going on debit card and food's going on debit card. It's shopping maybe goes on credit card, but you're not really using it. You're not using cash. So I think they're looking at cash as you're going to buy drugs or launder money or something. So I don't know. It's Canada. What do you? Actually, you're saying this is in Detroit. So yeah, I don't know. But the questions normally are, do you have any money? All right. No early games today. First game's at 6 o'clock. It is now 12 o'clock. All right. The Dodgers at Cleveland. The Dodgers 125-9. Dustin May 2-4 at the 409. Tanner Bibby 4-4 at the 357. Tanner Bibby's really good. I can't go under in the game because the Dodgers can hit. Cleveland's not a big hitting team. They got a good bullpen. I'm going to take Cleveland here. But I won't bet it because I want to bet against the Dodgers, but I like Bibby. He shut out Detroit last game. So let's go Cleveland. St. Louis, Baltimore, I'm totally confused. A guy with an 0-7 record and a 7 ERA just beat you 4-1. So I don't know. St. Louis minus 118.9. Andre Palante 4-3 with the 418 against Tama Sugano 4-3 with the 307. I'm going to take Baltimore just on the fact that St. Louis couldn't beat the worst pitcher in the league. The Yankees did, though. The Yankees beat the guy on California who just sucks. And so watching the Tiger game, I picked up a bet for us to bet against this guy because he sucks. And he lost. So, all right. So, I like Baltimore here. I do watch the streaks and I watch, the series. And I'm saying, well, St. Louis didn't get a hit on this guy. They got batting problems. Now, some of it is the manager doesn't know what the hell he's doing and he sits out the wrong players. Like I said, if he's a lefty, but he's hot, they'll sit him out because there's a lefty going and you're like, what the hell are you doing? So the managers are pretty stupid. Frisco at Detroit. Frisco minus 125, 7.5. Logan Webb, 5-4 at the 267. Joe Flaherty, 2-6 with the 4-3. Yes, I agree. We're going to take San Fran here. And I think we're going to take it also under 7.5. So we're going to do two bets here. Frisco, 2 units. Frisco under 7.5, 2 units. We're betting A against Flaherty, but because Frisco couldn't hit the worst Tiger pitcher, they're not going to get runs. Detroit's not going to score against Logan Webb with the 267. In Detroit, you got to really put the microscope up. You got to dig deep on teams like Detroit, and you realize they're good against bad pitching, but when they face good pitching, they basically don't do shit. I mean, I've been watching the last 2 weeks, and they're losing 2-1 and 3-0, and then you see the pitcher was pretty good on St. Louis, on Toronto. So Cleveland killed them, shut them out, 1 run. And so here's a good pitcher, Logan Webb. And then you got Flaherty, who's terrible. So we'll go from there. So maybe it's an under because the Niners might not hit. but it should be an under. Atlanta and Philly. Ooh, it's a very good series. Atlanta 105, 8.5. Spencer Strider 0-2 with the 5.79 for Atlanta. Ranger Suarez 3-0 with the 3.70, and the 3.70 is more like a 1.5. He had a bad outing, and then he's been on fire. We're taking Philly here, 2 units. Yes, we respect Atlanta. Philly, it's a big series, but Ranger Suarez, who's pitching better, and Spencer Strider is 0-2 with the 5.79. Philly should hit him. And the strange part is Atlanta's favored by 105. Well, this doesn't make any sense. Philly should be favored. I don't understand this line. Minnesota, Tampa, the NFC Central Division game, the Vikings and Tampa Bay. Mini minus 125, 8.5. Joe Ryan, 4-2 with the 2.68 for Mini. Ty Bradley, 4-3 with the 4.61. Yes, I like Minnesota here. The White Sox and the Mets, I think the Mets won yesterday. Mets 275 and 8. I'm noticing a lot of these big spreads, the 250s, 350s on these money lines. It's crazy. Jonathan Cannon 2-5 with the 3.76. Tyler McGill 3-4 with the 3.56. Pretty even, total of 8. White Sox have been hitting, even though they don't have many hitters. Mets are a better team. We'll go with the Mets. No bet, though. It's funny with Vegas. What happened? Well, let me finish, and then I'll tell you this the Vegas thing. Boston, Milwaukee, we don't have pitchers. Surprise, surprise. All right. I think that would be over 8.5, depending on who the pitchers are. Cincinnati and KC. Cincinnati 105 and 8. Brady Singer 5-3 with the 4.88 against Daniel Lynch 3-1 with the 1.57. We'll take Kansas City here. Colorado and the Cubs. Here you go. The Cubs minus 325. They don't want you betting this. German Marquez, the worst pitcher in baseball, 1-7 with the 7.66 against Kate Horton, 2-0 with the 4.40. I got to go over here. Cubs over 7.5. We'll go 2 units. Probably should take the Cubs also. Just Colorado's won 9 games and the Cubs won 33. I can't see the Cubs losing. Colorado on the road's terrible. But again, you're laying 3.25, so I'd rather just go over. We got 2 very weak pitchers. We should get 8 runs. Toronto and Texas. Texas 140 and 8. Bowden Francis 2-6 with the 5.54. What is this guy doing in the pros? Against Nathan Eovaldi, 4-3. Oh yeah, we're going Texas 2 units. Go Eovaldi. He's very good. See, like he shut out the Tigers, and that's where I'm getting it. When they face this 4-3 with a 1.60, the Tigers, they can't hit. Oakland and Houston. Houston 235 and 8. JP Sears 4-4 with the 4 ERA. Hunter Brown 6-3. We're going with the Hunter again. We lost with them last time. Even though he's got a 2.04 ERA, he lost like a 2-1 game. Oakland can hit, so I'm not going over or under, but I think I got to go with the stud, Hunter Brown. JP Sears 4-4 at the 4, so let's go Houston. The Yanks in California, we had the Yanks yesterday. The Yanks minus 210 and 9. Carlos Rodon 6-3 at the 2.88. Tyler Anderson 2-1. We're going to go under in this game. The Yankees under 9, no bet. Well, we got Tyler Anderson for California's 3.6 ERA and Rodon's a 2.88 ERA. Very probability this will be low scoring. California doesn't hit that much. The Yankees, I don't know what the Yankees, they have Goldsmith and they have Judge, and after that they got crap, and they tend to not score a lot of runs. I mean, once in a while, Colorado, they put up 13, but once in a while, but like against this pitcher, they're not going to score many runs. Pitt in Arizona, we've got Arizona minus 258.5. Mike Burrows 0-1 with the 7.20 for Pitt. Corbin Burns, 3-2. There we go. We're taking Arizona. This is going to be a 5-star lock. Burns has been pitching really well, and they're at home, and Pitt can't hit. Pitt's pitcher's got a 7.20. I can't imagine Arizona 5-1 at least. Miami, San Diego. Miami won. Miami's sneaky. They got good hitting. San Diego 167.5. Max Mayer 3-4 with the 4.15. Stephen Kolek 2-1 with the 2.84. I mean, San Diego. Who's Kolek? Is he a bullpen guy? See, now you start getting the bullpen guys with the low ERAs because they pitch one inning once a week. This guy he's a starter. Shutout Pitt. Full complete game shutout against Colorado. Well, that doesn't count. Pitched 5 innings against Seattle, gave up 5 runs, and pitched 6 innings against Toronto, gave up 3 runs. So here's where you got to go inside. And the first 2 games are shutouts, and then the last 2 games he gave up 5 and 3. And so who is he really? So when you look at it, it's totally skewed because he pitched a 9 innings shutout, but the others were 5 and 6 innings. So I'm not buying that. I'm going to go over here. San Diego over 7.5. Because I don't buy this Kolek. The last 2 games he gave up 5 and 3. He's only pitched 4, and so I don't buy his 2.84. So I don't buy 7.5. Miami's been hitting. And their last game is Washington, the Redskins at Seattle, the Seahawks. Washington should be favored by a touchdown. We got Seattle minus 165, 8.5. Mitchell Parker, 4-3 with the 4.39 against Logan Evans, 2-1 with the 3.33. What do we got? Washington with 3 hitters, Seattle with 2 hitters. Yeah, Seattle's a very weak hitting team, but they're 29 and 23. They do seem to get hits. They are at home. Washington, did they play yesterday? No. So I would say Washington flew out to Seattle yesterday, and they're going to be tired. Let's go under 8.5 here. Neither team really hits a lot, but no bet. All right. So here's the plays. Cleveland, Baltimore, Frisco, 2 units. Frisco under 7.5, 2 units. Philly, 2 units. So if I don't say units, I'm not betting it. Minnesota, the Mets, Kansas City, the Cubs over 7.5, 2 units. Texas, 2 units. Houston, no bet. The Yankees under 9, no bet. Arizona, 5 unit. San Diego over 7.5, no bet. And Seattle under 8.5. That is today's stuff. NBA. We won. We had Minnesota getting 2.5, and they lost by 2. OKC now leads the series 3-1. I'm surprised Minnesota didn't win. Notice the score is pretty high. It did not go to overtime. But as Minnesota won game 3, I thought they could play with them at home, and they did. I don't see the game because it's on TNT or whatever. But so we cover, even though we lost, which is the best we can do. So now OKC leads 3-1, and they're at home against game 5, where we will take OKC in game 5. This was Minnesota's do or die, and they died, even though they covered for us. Thank you. But they died. All right. So let's see tonight. Indiana leads the series 2-1. There's been blown leads all over the place. Indy was up 20 and lost. They should be up 3-0 right now, and they're up 2-1. That will not happen again. Indy minus 2.5. I loved Indy minus 2.5 today. This should be a big bet. A, they're off the loss. B, they're at home. C, they were up 20, and they're not going to do that again. Now, why do teams blow 20-point leads now? Because they shoot this fucking 3-point shot. There's a time and a place to shoot a 3-point shot. There's a time and a place to go for 4th down. The Lions ought to know. Cost them a Super Bowl. There's a time and a place, and when you're up 20 is not the time to shoot 3-point shots. It's throw it in the lane and get fouled or dunk. You're just trying to take time off. You're trying to work them in. You're trying to get them in foul trouble. You're trying to shoot free throws. You're not trying to shoot 3-point shots. What the fuck? Who's coaching this team? Some idiot? Terrible. That's not the time to shoot threes, period. Indy had the 20-point lead at home. Look for them to be very upset after losing. Again, goes back to my 50-unit lock, Golden State against somebody. I don't remember, a few years ago. They lost game 1, and then they had a 20-point lead and lost it. Game 2, they were laying 3.5 at home, Steph Curry, and they won by 40. And that was the lock, laying 2.5, 3.5 at home, because they had gotten up there, so the matchup was favored. They just let down at the end. They didn't do that in game 2, and they ended up winning the series. So look for Indy, who blew the game. Now, mad off of a loss at home. The Knicks don't show much. They lost the 2 games in New York. I think Indy pretty heavy here. Bet this at least 5 units. Bet this strong. This is probably a lock. When you blow the lead like that, they're not. The guy with the choke is. He choked. So look for him to come back. So I like Indy. That, and then tomorrow we'll probably be back with OKC to finish the series in game 5. But Indy does not want to go 2-2. They had the lead. They're the better team. So let's go Indy 3-1. It's amazing how you listen to these guys on the radio and they're so clueless. You've got to play psychology. You lost. So first of all, you lost. So you're going to play good. Secondly, you're at home and you're up 2-1. You don't want to do 2 and go back to New York and then get down 3-2. This is a critical game for Indiana, especially the way they had a 20-point lead and lost it. So go Indiana, beat New York. My Vegas story. What was I thinking? Shit. I knew I should have said it when I thought it. I don't remember. Well, Vegas is going broke. Let's start with there. Maybe we'll think about it. Vegas has sold all their hotels and the land to like Vanguard, and Vanguard charges them rent. And I talked to my gold guy about this. I said, "Do you own your store?" He says, "Well, there's advantages to renting it out, and there's disadvantages to renting it out." And Vanguard keeps raising the rent on all the Caesars casinos. And the Caesars casinos, who obviously don't know what the fuck they're doing, they know casino, but they don't understand economics, are raising hotel prices and raising parking and raising food. And the hotel rooms, they have the resort fee, which is done by the casinos. So they're doing everything they can to keep you away. So they think, well, if we, it's amazing how stupid people are. They think if you like raise income taxes, they'll get more tax revenue. It doesn't work that way. You get less. They think, because people always go to where they can save money. So if it's like when I'm at the grocery store, if you, the dark chocolate at Meijer's is $4.44, but if I go to Walmart, it's $2.50 for the the Sam's Club brand. So what do? I drive there to get my dark chocolate and my avocados. So here, Meijer's is thinking they're going to get more money from me raising avocados and raising dark chocolate. And I go, fuck you, I'm not going to shop there. I found a place where it's much cheaper. I still get my avocados, my dark chocolate. I just simply don't get them from you. So your thought of bringing in revenue doesn't work. And that's what they're doing with Vegas. They think, we'll raise hotel prices. We'll make money on the parking. We'll charge $150 to watch football games if you want to sit in the thing. We'll charge more for food. We'll charge this resort fee. Well, people don't go there. I'm not even thinking about going to Vegas. I'd rather go to Amsterdam. It'd probably be cheaper than going to Vegas. So that's where I'm at. You substitute, you go somewhere else, you buy from another store or whatever. And that's really what you're doing. Um, so that's why it never works to raise prices. What you should do is lower prices. What you want to do is draw people in, say, look, we'll cut the resort fee off, and no, if they cut the resort fee and had no charge for parking and, had a coffee shop and didn't charge 150 to watch football because it would be packed, and then after people would eat and shop and probably gamble. Again, you're a casino. You want people in the casino gambling, and you're chasing them out. Nobody's going to pay $40 to park their fucking car in Las Vegas. So what ends up happening is they chase you out, and maybe you don't go. Like me, I can go downtown Detroit and play poker. I don't bet football at MGM. They're way too expensive, but I can. Their odds are 13-10. Like, excuse me, we're not idiots. We're not paying 13-10 to bet a teaser. But we can go play poker downtown, and we can't eat there because the food's very much more expensive. I can stop at my barbecue place and get barbecue a hell of a lot cheaper than I can where I used to go get the buffet. They don't have the buffet anymore. So they missed the point, and people go somewhere else. Because if I can get something for $5 and you're charging 10, I'm going to go buy it for $5. That's human nature. That's economics. So Vegas is going broke. I don't remember what I was thinking about when I was talking about Canada, but probably similar to that. So that's what it is. They're broke because they're raising rent. And then when they raise the rent, what's happening is instead of lowering all their costs to get people in, see, old Vegas had it. The mafia understood. We want you to come and lose your money gambling. We'll give you cheap food, cheap hotel. We're certainly not going to make you pay to watch football. We want you in. And these idiots who run these casinos do not even want you in. And when you are in, you leave to go eat. I remember last time I was there a few years ago, and we would walk across the street to CVS and get a tuna sandwich and a honeydew and a pop and chips for half the price that they were. You get a smash burger at Caesar's and it was $15. Like, what are you, out of your mind? So you wouldn't eat there. And so everything, we didn't have a car, so we didn't know about parking, and we don't stay there because of the resort fee. So it's ridiculous what they're doing, keeping you away. And then when you are walking through there, blackjack, $50 minimum. So you're keeping me away from the tables. You're keeping me out of your not parking. You're keeping me away from your sports book. What are you doing? And they're so stupid they don't understand free market economics. We do what we want. And this is the big problem. So Vegas is going broke and will go broke because they're missing their one big gun, which is the gambling. $5 blackjack. Yeah, you can have $50 blackjack with nobody there. Or if you do get a player, he's probably a pro. Because most little guys are not playing $50 blackjack. If you want the novice to play because they don't know what they're doing. You're going to take them 9 out of 10. Blackjack, craps, roulette, you're gonna win all their money. 9 out of 10. Unless you keep them from playing. And if you keep them from playing, you're not winning a nickel. And when you make these this is where analytics comes in. Well, if we charge $50, we'll win more. But they don't assume the other side of the coin. But nobody will gamble. They don't understand. Well, when they gamble, we'll win more at $50 than at $20. True, but you won't have anybody gambling. And the only guy that's going to gamble is some rich guy who is a professional who's going to beat your ass at $50 a hand. You're not getting the regular guy who doesn't know what they're doing. And you're not going to get anybody to sit at your table. And you're going to pay your dealer. So they don't know what they're doing. And then they're all going broke because why would you sell the land and the hotel to Vanguard in the first place? So now they keep raising the rent and raising the rent. You can't afford it. What are you going to do? Lose the casino? Incredibly stupid people. And this is where I really can't handle Keynesians. Anyway, Prophet, he claimed he didn't know cash had to be declared. Well, again, if they said, do you have anything to declare? And he says, no, why are they stopping him? Customs knew he had 133 grand because it was all Canadian $100 bills he brought back. But how did they know? Well, first of all, how did they know he had $100 Canadian bills? And secondly, I've been at Caesars Windsor. You cash your money in, well, sometimes at the casino. They give you kind of a not that great of a rate, but you don't have to worry about cashing it in. So I would have taken the 33 grand in casino in Canada, gone downstairs at Caesars Windsor and said, give me American. And I probably would have got 29,000, 28,000 American because Canadian's worth less than American. And that's why I don't go to Canada Windsor anymore, Caesars Windsor, because of that. So if I give them $500 American, I gotta gamble in Canadian money. So I've already lost money, and they take it off the FX. They'll give me a 10% fee, and then if I am lucky enough to win, and now I have $1,000 and I exchange it for Canadian, it's not worth that much, and they charge me a 10% fee. So I'm getting hit on both ways, the FX rate. So I just assume go play at MGM. If I go to Caesars, it would be to see a show or play in a poker tournament. Last time I was there was to play in a poker tournament. They searched his car. Okay, but didn't he have it on him? Why did they search his car is the question. Why not just deposit any monies at an ATM to your bank account before crossing the border? Yes, I mean, that's obviously what you should have done. And they can, I know when I'm in Europe, I go to the ATM and I go, give me $100 in euros. And they just hit my account. So I'm assuming you can put the euros back into your ATM. I'm not dealing with a lot of money. So I just, normally I give it to Jenna here. I'm left with 200 euro, just take it. But that's where I'm at with it. So yeah, but normally you can get euros using your ATM, using your checking account. So yeah, I would have done that. I'm sure had he known, again, what triggered the search would be my question. And was it just a random or searching your car? Was he nervous? Did he not ask them properly? I don't know. Again, going over the border, usually just remain calm and say, who the fuck are you? Like, you don't say that, but you're like, I gotta know. What are you talking about? Why would I have anything? I just went to play. I went to gamble. Now I'm going home. Like, what do you want? And so I'm not sure they'll search. It might have been a random search, but they wouldn't have known he had all 33,000 in hundreds. But yes, I agree with you. He should have put it into his ATM. What's the difference? Why do I need to carry? Well, 33,000 Canadian is what, 25,000 American. So what do I need to carry that kind of money? I'm going to go and put it in the bank anyway, I think. I don't know what you're going to do with $25,000. I would go to the gold store probably and put it in the gold if I did that. But I agree. Yeah, put it in your ATM. Now you're coming with gold and you're going to declare it. I got this one gold bar and you don't have to pay tax on it. It's good. And you're just going to validate it basically. Or whatever your explanation, but I'm just going to get it validated, make sure it's real. That's, well, why aren't you doing this in Montreal? Well, that's the other thing. It could have been the timing. If he's coming back at 3 a.m., he might look a little suspicious. Well, not if you're coming back from the casino. You usually have a tell. Maybe he's nervous. Maybe he was excited. I don't know. Maybe the way he talked to the guy. Me and Carmen were coming back from Niagara Falls at 2 a.m, and we were there like 10 minutes, and he's looking at her passport, and and I'm like, what's the fuck is going on? Like, they were probably saying, who is this girl from Romania doing at 2 a.m. in your car? So it might have been the timing, but we went through fine. They didn't check the car or anything. So anyway, that's what it was. We should have stayed we were just going for the day, but we should have slept over at Niagara Falls, but it was tough to find a room. It was a Saturday night or something. But anyway, who knows? So Vegas has problems because Vanguard keeps raising the rent. And instead of lowering the prices to get people in, to get people to lose their money gambling, like they did in the 70s and 80s in Vegas, they're raising their prices and basically fucking the customers and basically keeping the customers away. The best way to lose customers, raise your price. Right? That's the problem. If I made Teaserking $1,000 a week, I'd have no customers, maybe one. But generally, that's it. So you've got to keep your price to draw in the customers. I'd rather have 20 customers at $100 a week than make it $1,000 for the week for my football, and I get nobody, because $2,000 is more than zero, and that's what Vegas is doing. They're getting zero instead of that. Free Palestine. Are you here to talk economics, Panos, or are you just? I don't do this. I hold nothing about anybody here. Just a second. Okay, so yeah, we don't play politics here, Panos. If you want to discuss, you can discuss, but don't tell me to free Palestine. That's not what we're about. We're about freedom, but not like that. So anyway, so again, Vegas should be trying to bring people in, not keep people out. And when you raise your price, raising your price never works because you will always substitute it for a cheaper price if possible. And you'll see it with steak and meat and fish and food and clothing. I showed you my my polo shirt, and I said, well, this was $35. It went to 100. I buy Nautica, and it's, you only have so much money, and you're not gonna if you can substitute it, you're gonna substitute it. That's economics. That's human nature. All right. So that's the thing. So yeah, Prophet, let me know more. Like, what gave him away? Why did they search him? What triggered the search? But yeah, I agree with you. If you win a lot of money, put it in your ATM. You can't do that. You've got this gold, and you want to get American for it. But I don't know what I would say at the border. We'll have to think about that. All right. So, talking about freedom, talking about socialism. I was watching John Stossel. So this guy's from North Korea, and he comes in, and so we won't play the whole thing. It's 38 minutes, but just a little bit. Uh, Basically, in summary, is he has to escape North Korea. It's a shithole. There's no food. He's working as a slave, as a child. He escapes to China, and they bring him back because they pay him if they find people that escape. Then he finally did it again. He's working in a mine, and he's gonna die anyway, so he doesn't care. But this is the conditions, and the point is, you people that want socialism, you don't know what you're asking for. So my point with gold and silver is that's freedom because you're free, you're independent. Nobody can take it from you. It's not going to lose its value. They can't print it and make it worthless, as they did here in North Korea. They printed the dollar and made it worthless, then came out with new dollars for themselves. So there was a lot of black market going on. But in a socialist country, the government runs you and controls you. Not in America, not with freedom and capitalism. You're free to do what you want. I'm free to go from Myers to Walmart and buy my dark chocolate and avocados. I'm free to do that. I'm free to get into my car. I'm free to fill up with gas. I'm free to make money and work how I want to work. These are all your freedoms. Gold gives you the most freedom because it's yours. Nobody can really take it. It's sort of like my cards. I'm showing you the Bobby Orr card and the Mantle card. There's really nothing they can do. I can go on eBay and sell it and get the money. But having assets away from the government frees you up. So nobody can actually say anything or do anything. It's hard for the government to do that. So that's what we will see. So let's watch a little of Stossel here.
A study from Harvard and Johns Hopkins confirmed this recipe is 10 times more effective than Manjaro.
Nobody
I'm
cares.
surprised to actually find
I think socialism is great. Socialism stays winning.
And their party, the Democratic Socialists of America, says
we are committed to transforming our society into one based on
The
collective
garbage.
ownership.
collective ownership. They say that will bring.
Freedom, equality, and solidarity.
Give me a break. Socialism has been.
What that says is you lose your freedom. If it's collective socialism, means you're part of the group. You don't want to be part of the group. You want to be an individual to choose what you want to do. That's why I do not see CBDCs working. That'll never work because CBDCs are ownership, right? They can control you, tell you what to do, and that's not going to work here. It might work in China, but it's not working there. It might work in Cuba or Venezuela, where they're heavy communist countries that there's no freedom for the people. So their only choice is to go to the CBDC. But here it's not going to work. Nobody's giving up their money here. And especially the mafia will not, they're not going to get rid of money. How are they going to sell their drugs? Because if it's now on CBDC, everybody would know you're buying drugs. Well, that's never going to go. So, hearing some idiots talk about it, it's a scared tactic. It'll never work. And these guys are a bunch of idiots who talk about it.
In all these places. It failed in all those places. China began to prosper only after the communists legalized some private enterprise. But every attempt at real socialism has failed. Even if young people don't remember the collapse of the Soviet Union, they should have noticed the masses of unhappy people still fleeing Venezuela. And above all, they should look at North Korea. Watching cheering on government media Looks like North Koreans love socialism. The country even has influencers who brag about how wonderful North Korea is.
Literally, wherever you go, there are amusement parks.
It's just deceitful propaganda. But some silly Americans believe.
The people are good. The leadership is good. They are a great proletarian nation.
Come on, even CNN and PBS report the truth.
North Korea is repressive and cruel.
They have created a fearsome police state.
Not many people escape North Korea. And those who do fear talking about it because if they do, their families might be killed.
Not just you, but your entire 3 generations will be wiped out.
Charles Ryu escaped North Korea. He speaks out only because he has no immediate family left in North Korea. His story of escaping twice is powerful. He grew up mostly alone.
That's right. My dad abandoned me when I was 5, and my mother passed away when I was 11.
3 years after she died, you're 14 years old.
Mhm.
You decide to try to escape.
When I first escaped North Korea, my dad, who was in China, he asked my half-brother to come rescue me from North Korea because he knew that I was with my aunt, who was very abusive at the time. And she blackmailed my father, saying that if you don't send us money, we are going to kill your child and sell him to the black market. So my dad then sent my half-brother, it's like, you gotta go get Toru. And we had a broker arranged, and the broker told me that, hey, you can just swim across the Yellow River and nobody's gonna care, and you're gonna go live with your dad.
Sounds easy, but it wasn't.
It's deep, wide, and fast. And the water in the river is cold, so it can easily cramp your muscles.
There are guards in every 100 meters with AK-47 waiting to shoot you. But there are times when you're allowed to go in the river because North Korea uses the Yellow River as the source of water, right? So there is no running water. So you can go in and you can do your daily chores. I was pretended that I was taking a bath, and when nobody was looking during the daytime, I swam into the river, and then I swam across Yellow River, and my dad was on the other side waiting for me with a taxi cab. And as soon as I got there, we just drove off, and we got to a hotel. And then the next morning, my dad took me to his house.
How did he know you were coming across them?
My dad was in communication with my half-brother at all times. And the broker in North Korea, he had a Chinese cell phone. So he was calling internationally across from North Korea to China.
In China, you were surprised to find life was better.
Absolutely, absolutely. When I first came to China, for me, it felt like getting into time machine and fast forwarding 50 years into the future. Because in North Korea, there were no internet cafe, there is no arcade, there was no 24-hour running electricity. Nobody's telling me you're gonna go to jail. So yes, it was amazing and it was life-changing.
We Americans think of China as a surveillance state, that you're not free.
There's no freedom of thought. There's no freedom of conscience. There's no freedom of political assembly, of religion.
They'll punish you if you say the wrong thing, but
So you want communism, huh? Is that what you want? I don't understand why people have to just listen to other people and can't make up their own decision in their own mind. That's what I do. I give you the info to make up your decisions and make up your own mind. I don't force you to buy gold, but it's the best play. It's like a chess game. It's the best move is gold and silver. And I explain why it drops is all bullshit, right? So I don't get when people are brainwashed and I want socialism, I want communism, China's this, North Korea's that. You know, it's insanity. People don't want to learn. They're so fucking lazy. It just blows my mind. Now you're here in a class, so you're trying to learn. You want to learn. And I respect that, and I try to teach you in a way that you go, oh, that makes sense. But this is crazy. North Korea he says it's not even a government, it's just gangsters. We'll get back to it. He had to escape. Like he couldn't just get on an airplane and go fly to Hawaii. And there's no money. There's no food. What kind of country is this? How do you starve your own people? What is the point of the country? So the leader, where's he getting his stuff from? I can't imagine North Korea is going to survive much longer with the way they don't have productivity. They don't have currency. But it shows you how to appreciate the U.S. and freedom. And capitalism is freedom. Gold is freedom. Getting a skill set is freedom. You want to get a better skill set. And when I talk to some people, they get a job and they'll ask me, well, how do you make your money? And well, I got a skill. I got a master's in finance and I got 20 years at GM and Ford and Mercedes, and I have a skill and people will pay me for my skill pretty good. I says, that's the key to America is get a skill that pays. So look what pays, what kind of jobs, and can you, is it IT or programming or whatever is probably the best. I assume it can't be that hard. There's too many programmers out there. And so that's really what you're trying to do is buy your freedom and get your freedom. And if you live on the government welfare, you're not free. You got to do so many things. You're kind of free, but you still have to do things for the government. Like when I get unemployment, I lost my job. They eliminated the position. I didn't do anything wrong. And then I get unemployment, but I got to look for work and then they'll pay me. Okay. So security, I've already paid in. So I've already done my job and I'm trying to get my money back that I gave them, not with my agreement. I would have kept it myself and I would have bought more gold with it and then I'd be able to retire. But so the game plan is you buy gold and silver, let the price go up and you go retire. The retirement plans are crazy. They want you to buy stocks and get dividends or in an annuity where you get so much percent. What they miss is the dollar is not worth anything. Amazing how many people don't understand that. So they're fucking you, even though we have freedom here. If they take your money away and make it worthless, you lose your freedom. So I don't buy the CBDCs controlling us and making that's not America. That'll never work in America or Canada or England or Germany or France. It'll never work in those places. People will not lose their freedom and will definitely protest the governments. And I see that failing. I don't see Trump wanting it. The Scott Simpson guy, I do not like. He's a Soros guy. This Treasury Secretary sounds like an idiot. If you watch him, he seems like an idiot. He's not. He can't really talk, and he can't really express himself. And I don't think he knows what he's doing. I think he's in way over his head, and he's with the tariffs. It's probably his idea, and he's fucking up pretty bad. Anyway. So you don't want to give up your freedom. You need your freedom because you want to live life on your time. I want to go to the grocery store. I'm going to go swim. I want to teach class. I want to get a cell phone. I want to get, and we understand everything. And that's why I watch a lot of YouTube. So you learn what's going on. But to think socialism is the key. Socialism is about when the government wants socialism, they want control over you. And they're going to get all the money. And you're going to, we'll give you 1 cent. We'll keep the other 99. That's the problem with socialism. You lose your freedom. Why do you want that? Well, the collective, what are you talking about? Collective what? That means you don't want to work. You don't have a skill and you want a handout. Well, nobody wants a handout. We want to work for ourselves. We want to go to work and work hard and get money and then invest our money properly and retire in gold and silver. Not be part of a group. What do we want to be a part of a group? This is America. We want individual freedom. And that's the key that you should want. And gold and silver give you that. The dollar collapses, and then you're fucked. All right.
You, it was freedom?
Because the level of freedom that I had in America compared to China, yes, that makes sense. But at the time, when I just came out of North Korea, being in China was like heaven for me. In China, you can actually use Chinese version of Google besides like the political things, right? Economically, you can search anything like what's happening in South Korea, what's happening in North Korea, like the information are there, right? But in North Korea, nothing like that exists.
Internet in North Korea is heavily restricted, more so than in China. And some natives don't even know what the internet actually is.
There is no freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom of religion. I know China recently allowed Christianity in there, right? But in North Korea, there is nothing like that exists.
But people say the Chinese government, they watch your every move.
Chinese government do watch your every move, right? And they surveillance you. They have cameras everywhere. But in North Korea, it's 100 times worse than China. So me coming from North Korea to China, I didn't feel that at all. One of the example was in China, you can watch American Hollywood movies. Nobody cares, right? You can watch like as many as you want. But in North Korea, if you do that, you're gonna get in trouble.
But North Koreans now have cell phones.
They do have cell phones, but there is no internet on it. And that phone takes a screenshot of the user's home screen randomly, and he saves it to a folder where user does not have access to. Only the government does. So that at any given moment, government can actually look at that, and North Korean regime can look at that and say, oh, this is what you're doing. You're in trouble, right? And also on top of that, North Korean people's annual salary is anywhere between $800 to $1,400. And then the cell phone costs about $1,400. So it's an extremely luxury thing. It's only an elite can afford that.
Costs a year's salary.
Yes.
When you swam across, you were still a full believer in the dictator. He was godlike.
Yes, that's right.
What is the best way to shrink enlarged fat cells around the waist, also known as belly fat?
He was godlike.
Fasting.
Yes, that's right. I went to restaurants and I would hear people talking about Kim Jong-il, right? And that was shocking to me because in North Korea, like I would have to use Kim Jong-il and then a dear leader. But in China, that was non-existent. They would actually insult him, right? And they would actually call him fat pig. Part of me was offended because they're talking bad about Kim Jong-il. I feel like I'm going to get in trouble. Kim Jong-il and Kim Il-sung were like the good guys, right? Because in North Korea, instead of learning the world history or Korea history, we had to learn Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il's history from the first book to the third book until I was 11 years old. And in that, we learn, you know how America bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki twice and Japanese surrendered. But in North Korea, we learned that Kim Il-sung defeated the head-to-toe armed Japanese and saved us from the Japanese. So growing up, listening to those kind of propagandas, like you believe those kind of propagandas.
Why would you believe it? To my ears, it just sounds so ridiculous that the dictator does everything, makes the sun shine.
The moment you're born until the moment you die, that's what you hear all the time. And you're completely blocked out from the rest of the world. And that's the only thing that you've known for your entire life, right? If it wasn't for Kim Il-sung, and if it wasn't for Kim Jong-il, we are not going to be here. In my textbook.
Welcome to communism, boys. Is that really what you want? Bernie Sanders? Because America's so bad and all the rich, they control everything. Nobody's telling you what to think. Now, our history is a little bit slanted, I agree, but we do know about World War I and World War II and the Revolution and the Civil War and JFK and everything. Now they got the moon wrong and 9/11 wrong, but we know that it happened. So that's the whole point, right? We don't. We are fairly free, but I was called a conspiracy theorist by the commie in the locker room because I'm saying the dollar's going out. Oh, you're conspiracy theory. This is the danger of the communists, that when they can't defeat you because you're smarter than they are and you know the truth, they get all flustered. So now I'm a conspiracy theorist. Oh, so if I don't believe the government, who always lies, see, here in North Korea, they're lying, right? Oh, we defeated the Japanese in World War II. So you have the government. So if you disagree with the government, then what? You're intelligent for not just being brainwashed. 9/11 was a gold robbery. I don't buy that. I believe Israel was behind it, not whoever the guy was. And that's the thing. And then for people to say it's a conspiracy theory, what are you trying to say? The government's right, and I'm questioning. God forbid I question the government, and I'm wrong. I'm always going to question the government because they're never telling the truth about anything. But I understand that because that's how I think. Does it make sense? And if it doesn't make sense, I'm going to question it and figure it out. And that's what I do. Why is gold 2,000 an ounce when it should be much higher? We have massive inflation. How is the dollar even still used? It has no value. These are the questions I ask. And then you look at the Romans and the French and the English, go, well, they didn't last either, so we're not going to last. So asking those questions are proper questions to ask, not just listening, going, well, that's obviously what's going on if they're doing that. So that's the whole point of it, to question if things don't make sense. If everything makes sense, fine. That's what you want to do. So anyway, yeah, I'm a conspiracy theorist because I don't buy the theory. It's like now these tariffs. We know the tariffs are bad because it raises costs, which raise price sometimes, and it hurts the economy and it hurts the market because you can't sell over market. If the ribs are $30, you can't sell them for 40. If the Camry's 25,000, you can't sell it for 35. But we understand the economic concepts. So are we conspiracy theorists to say, oh, well, Trump's tariffs won't work? No. We're absolutely 100% correct that they won't work and they can't work. Anytime you raise costs, cannot possibly work. Are you trying to bankrupt China, Trump? Are you trying to bankrupt the whole world because you're tariffing the whole world? What the fuck are you doing? So this is where everybody just gets off the dollar and goes to gold, and you're basically chasing everybody away like Las Vegas, right? So Trump is Las Vegas. Prophet, it's the government that came up with the term conspiracy theory. Yeah, well, maybe. But again, to question the government, I don't see a problem with it. It's fine. That's the point of free thinking, freedom. We can question that. Like I said in an interview, he said, "Do you have any questions?" I says, "Yeah. Do you understand why gold's at 2,000 an ounce?" A finance question, an economic question, talking to a CFO or finance director, he should be able to relate, and he couldn't even understand it. No, I don't. Why not? Why aren't you asking that question? And that's when you ask that question, and if they don't know, you get up and leave. That's why you ask your financial planner or financial advisor, whoever you talk to, about where do I put my money, and he doesn't say gold, you get up and leave because he doesn't know what he's doing. I had a guy at the bank. I'm taking money out to go buy gold. He goes, I can get you in a 9% annuity. I go, but I'm still in dollars. I don't want to be in dollars. I want to be in gold. I want to be in real money. And he didn't understand that. And I love when they try to trick you. Well, do you understand elasticity and inelasticity? I says, I don't talk like that. So I don't, I believe that gas in your car is inelastic. You're going to buy it no matter what, but potato chips, if you make the price too high or not. I think that's what he meant, but I don't know. I don't call it that. So I said, I want gold. That's all I know is I want gold. And you don't know anything. Get out of my face. Goodbye. I don't have anything to say to you because you're not looking out for me. You're trying to get a commission by putting me in an annuity at 9%, meaning I'm still going to be in the fucking paper dollars that are worthless. And if you don't, and so that's the point. If you ask your guy and he doesn't put you in gold, which he won't because there's no commission on it. So I don't even know why you even bother asking a financial advisor. Just buy gold and silver and that's it. I don't know why people can't make it harder than, well, I'm going to diversify and I'll buy Bitcoin and I'll buy, Apple stock and then I'll buy some gold and silver. You don't want to diversify. You want to get off the Titanic into the lifeboat, and the lifeboat's gold and silver, and that's it. There is no other thing. If you want, get the Mantle card, but that's with extra money. That's something I had bought in the 90s. Now it's 2025. I'm buying gold and silver for the last 5 years. That's the idea behind it. So we're protected and we'll be free with gold and silver. The CBDC, I would say never get involved with. Let's say I want to go to Russia and visit Daria. Well, it's not going to let me. Well, where are you going? No, I got to veto that. We don't like Russia. You can't go. What the fuck? So that's where I have a problem. I have a problem with government because they're all corrupt. But it's the situation. You're going to be corrupt because I don't know how you can be in government and not be corrupt. The lobbyists come with the money from the defense contractors. Here's $1 million. What are you going to do? Turn it down? You take it? Okay, I gave you the $1 million. Now vote this way. We need a war so we can sell more goods. Well, I tell them to fuck off. I'm not going to war. I'm not getting people killed so you can make $5. That's not even real money. So anyway, so you can see when people say socialism, when people say socialism and communism, what they're the people who like it don't want to work. They don't want to have a skill set. They don't understand. So they're going, oh, the collective good, which means that we'll be part of a group and I'll get a handout of a chocolate chip cookie and that'll be my dinner, working in a collective. So I won't work and I'll get handouts. Well, who are you going to get the handouts from? In capitalism, you need me to work, and then you take my taxes and you feed these people. In socialism, I won't be able to work and make a lot of money. See, that's what they don't tell you. Nobody will be able to work. There won't be money to hand out. That's why it never can work. There's a few rich guys, and then everybody else is poor, and the rich aren't going to give you any of their money, and you end up starving, like in North Korea. All right, back to Charlie Wong here.
In like the mathematics, I learned that like how they portray Americans, right? So it's like, oh, there were 20 evil American tanks, and one brave North Korean tanks comes in and destroys 5 of evil American tanks. Like how many evil American tanks are left, right? And also Korean literature, there was one section I particularly remember. When Kim Jong-il was really young, he learned about what Japanese done to North Korea. So he got really mad. So he grabbed a calligraphy pen and grabbed the ink.
Hey everyone, big heads up. Paleo Valley's running a sale on all their meat sticks right now. You can get 30 sticks for $36.
Grabbed the ink.
So I think when I stop to talk, it triggers a commercial.
Over Japan. Right, and as soon as he did that, as soon as Kim Jong-il did that, Japan started getting hurricanes and storms and started raining. So it's like portraying him as some sort of like, I guess like a god. Yes.
But you believe.
You believe, yeah. You have to, otherwise, I mean, that's what you're listening to. That's what your friends are telling you. That's what families are telling you. That's what your school teacher is telling you 24/7. The moment when you wake up, there is a propaganda song. And we are proud to be part of that regime, right? So, like teaching you I guess, sort of like a pride, and also like wanting to be part of that kind of like regime.
And teaching people to fear America, which North Korea portrays as a wasteland.
North Korea portrays Americans as like some sort of like werewolf, trying to dehumanize Americans. And believe me, most people believe that. Most people think Americans are non-humans, right? With long nose and facial hairs. So in America, right, if you were to ask a child, for example, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, what do you think they're going to say? They're going to say, okay, I want to be a president. I want to be a firefighter. I want to be an astronaut. Right? I want to be a pilot. But in North Korea, they want to be Kim Jong-il's human shield. And dying for the regime is the most noble thing that you can do. When I was young, like, that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be Kim Jong-il's human shield.
Not just a bodyguard, a human shield.
Human shield, literally.
Die for him.
Dying for him, yes. Diving and catching.
Why would you want that?
It's that, like, I've watched so many propaganda movies and like documentaries about like North Korean soldiers dying for what's right. So meaning that, like, defending ourselves, like defending the country from evil Americans, right? So like dying for Kim Jong-il and dying for regime is the most noble thing that you can do in North Korea. So like I wanted to be like that. I wanted to be a hero.
You smile now, but you believe this.
That's right. Yes.
In his lifetime, great leader Kim Jong-il desired to build a modern indoor wading pool for people. Visiting the Munsu water park, foreigners and overseas Koreans said, "It is the best water park in the world. It is the pride of the Korean people and the victory of Korean socialism."
The water park exists.
Water park exists, yes. And also, believe it or not, North Korea has one of the largest stadium in the world. So who do you think built those? Military does, right? North Korea has 25 million people, and men that are over the age of 17 has to serve in the military for 12 years. And in that 12 years, like, what are they going to do? There isn't enough resources for them to train in shooting guns, right? I mean, most of North Korean armies carry empty magazines in their AK-47. Right? There is no resources. So they're forced to build those kind of things. So yes, those kind of things exist, but at what cost, right? People are starving. North Korea is a socialist country. No buying and selling is allowed, right? The government is supposed to, not government, North Korean regime, supposed to take care of you.
Or why do you make that distinction? They are the government.
I don't believe that they're a government. I believe they're a cartel. I believe that they are their regime. They're oppressing its people. They're formed against people's will. Like, if you don't vote in North Korea, you're gonna be treated as a betrayer, and not just you, but your entire 3 generations will be wiped out from North Korea. And how can we call that a government? How can we call that how can we justify that to they're my government. It's their cartel.
So this country is so repressive, and yet, unlike other socialist dictatorships, it's surviving and building expensive weapons. Why have they kind of succeeded?
Because they have a complete, total control and a lockdown. Nobody can leave North Korea besides those few chosen elites, right? Regular people, they can't even travel within North Korea. They have to get permissions, right? So no information going in, no information going out, right? So that's why I believe North Korea have been able to maintain that total dictatorship for as long as I can remember.
So if people leave and see how people live in these other countries, why do they come back, these diplomats?
Those diplomats, they come back to North Korea because they're one of the elites and they have been selected. They're the most loyal people in North Korea.
So their life is pretty good.
That's one of the misconceptions that like the Westerners have, is that all North Korean people are brainwashed. All North Korean people are starving, and everyone wants to go to war with America. But that's not true. I mean, there are some people in North Korea lives actually better lives than middle class Americans, and they don't want to escape North Korea. They don't want to betray the regime because they have it good.
Let's return to his first escape from North Korea. So you're in China.
Yes.
You're relatively free.
Mhm.
What happened?
My happiness in China was short-lived because Chinese government don't recognize North Koreans as refugees.
The Chinese cooperate with the North Korean dictator.
That's right. Yeah. So they have a treaty called Friendship Treaty, basically meaning that if a North Korean defector, North Korean people comes to China, they will capture them.
There were rewards for turning in someone like you, and somebody reported you for $126.
Yeah, my dad's neighbor reported me to the authorities. They knew who I was and they wanted the reward. So they reported me to the authorities, and then I got captured, and then I was sent back.
You're caught, sent back.
That's socialism, right? People tell on you, they get a reward. So the government actually, that's how they do so much. They actually know people, spy on your neighbors. What kind of freedom is that? Oh, they're smoking cigarettes, or they're doing drugs, or they're drinking. Oh, that's not good. And you tell on them and get a reward. That's ridiculous. No, that's why it's individual freedom. I don't know what my neighbors do. I don't care what my neighbors, just don't bother me. I don't want to hear a lot of noise. Just shut up and go do whatever that is you want to do. Is fine with me. And that's vice versa. So I don't know. And I don't, that's how it's supposed to be. But you can see, you really want socialism, which I'm going to call communism, which is government running everything. Is that what you want? Bernie Sanders and all you socialists who want America to be socialist, this is what you want? Because it's not going to be, this is capitalism. So you're very good. Same thing that you have profit in Canada. You have capitalism. You have some freedoms. Problem is the government's screwing up the money by printing it to death, because these idiots think, well, you can print all you want. Yeah, until it has no value. And this is the point. That's like in football, going for it on 4th and 2. You can go on 4th and 2, but if you don't make it, you've just it's a turnover. It's like a fumble. But they're not telling you that. They say, well, 51% of the time you'll make it. So you go for it. But they don't tell you is if you don't make it, you lose the game. So you got to know the pro and the con of going for it on 4th down, which they don't. And here's the same thing. You got to understand, do you really want socialism and government controlling you? And, oh, well, I don't have to work and I get these handouts. Well, maybe not. Look at the handouts that North Korea is getting. So you got to understand both sides. It's never, you can't paint one side of the picture when there's two sides to look at. And there's always two sides. You go get married. Well, there's, the girl, but then there's the other side of the girl or boy or whatever. So you're going to have two sides to a relationship. And yeah, she's real nice until she's not, or she does these and doesn't do that. I don't want to get too specific, but oh, she's pretty, but she smokes. Let's say, why don't we go there? So you get both sides. You got to put up with the smoking or the drinking, not just the pretty side of it. So it's always, you got to weigh it out. Is it worth it? Is it worth hearing the bitching for the good times? But there's always two sides. Anyway, so basically you got the idea. The North Korean, I'm not going to finish this. It just came out today. Survivor story, socialism, starvation, torture. I think we get the message. We do not want socialism. We do not want to be controlled. We want to be free. Gold and silver are your freedom, period. Holding the dollar, holding CBDCs, holding Bitcoin are not freedom. This is not freedom. because they can print it to zero. And then your Bitcoin is not worth anything because it's priced in dollars. So it's still controlled by this. So are stocks, so are the banks. Everything's controlled by this and the way they're printing it. And then you add on these tariffs where you're getting killed and your economy's collapsing. You're controlled by the dollar, not gold and silver. So that's why you want to lean towards gold and silver. It gives you freedom. You can't lose with it. It's not a bubble, and it doesn't go anywhere. I mean, but it does rise in value as the dollar collapses, and also because of the demand. People have that mistake. They think gold is good because it rises as the dollar declines, but it goes up because of demand like any other asset. The dollar doesn't have to go down for gold to go up. But people, it's the game they play that gold only goes up when the dollar collapses. And that's just not true. The Mantle card went up. The Montana rookie's 110,000. It didn't go up because the dollar collapsed. It went up because demand they realized the Montana rookie is very limited. If you got a 10, there's not a lot made. Like the Hannes, what is it? The Hannes Wagner card, 1906, is $5 million, and it's a PSA 1 or 2 because there's not a lot of that. Anything very limited. That's why that Iserman 1 of 1 card I got, who knows what that's worth? There's only one of them. It's extremely limited. And that's really the point of it. It's the gold can go up as these cards go up because they go up because of demand. Now the demand is caused by the dollars all collapsing everywhere in the world. The euro, the pound, the franc, the yuan, the yen, the ruble, all of them, because they're not backed by anything, are all worthless. So as people are figuring this out, they're all buying gold. All the central banks are buying gold. And that's it. So you can have some idiot come out like the Scott Simpson guy and say, oh, you hold the dollars. Everything's fine in the economy. Fuck you. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. And we're not that stupid. We don't believe you. And that's why you've got to be a conspiracy theorist. You've got to not trust the government because they're not going to tell you the truth. They're the ones who are the thieves, the Nancy Pelosi's and the Bidens and all these government people are the crooks. Oh, yeah, Nancy Pelosi, she won $10 million betting on stocks. Oh, yeah, she just must be smart with her stock background that's non-existent. You don't question that? How did you pick so well? You picked 98% winners. You made $20 million. Come on. I'm not that stupid. That's like a guy hitting a baseball, hitting 970. No. You're going to hit maybe 300, maybe 350. You're not hitting 900. So, of course, you would question it. That's what you're supposed to question everything. That's being free, and that's being intelligent. And that's the idea, is you are questioning things. And with gold, it can't be printed, so you don't have a worry with gold. The dollar, you do. It's worthless. Not a conspiracy theory. We didn't print it to death. They did, but we know they printed it to death, and we know, therefore, it has no value. So we know that. And we know gold and silver do. We know stocks are going to crush because the economy is collapsing. With these tariffs, costs go up. Why would any stock go up? They won't. And as I showed you yesterday, Warren Buffett's too stupid to buy gold. He's got treasuries and he's got a beer stock. Like, if you're going to buy a stock like that, you buy Coke or Pepsi. You don't buy beer, because everybody can drink Coke and Pepsi, but not everybody's drinking Corona. And then and treasuries are worthless. So that's a stupid move. But I showed you 2 shows yesterday. One where the guy says, oh, he's got 2 tons of gold. And the other guy says, and Egon says he doesn't have any. And we listen to Egon. All right. So we've got here Japan to dump 1.13 trillion in treasuries, see, I hate these because they didn't do it. They might do it. Well, I don't care what they might do. I only care that they do it. And then I got China's $33 trillion collapse. So you've got to pay attention to this stuff. This is happening. China's collapsing. Japan's collapsing. They're both collapsing. So you can't just ignore it because they're the ones buying our treasuries. And when they sell our treasuries to buy gold, not only does that make the gold price go up, but it makes the treasuries worth, now they're sending us back dollars. So that makes the inflation higher because the more dollars printed, the less they're worth. So now you got 1.13 trillion coming back. China's $33 trillion collapse. It's mostly the housing market. There's no consumers to buy your goods. So Trump's sitting there, well, we can't sell to China. Who are you going to sell to? Not only is there nobody to buy, but your dollar is worth more. So now the Scott Simpson guy is sitting there going, well, we got to devalue the dollar so people can buy it. Well, if you devalue it, it's not worth anything. I've never wanted to, well, let's lower the value of our dollar, so let's print. That's inflation, you moron. That's the problem with the Keynesians. They think they're playing this game of devaluing dollars so you buy more of their exports. What do we export? We don't export shit. So, and do they have money to buy our stuff? No. China doesn't have any money, neither does Japan. They're all broke. Who's going to buy? Why don't we sell to North Korea? No, nobody has money there. I mean, that's the problem. You can't sell to somebody who doesn't have money. So the whole idea of this is ridiculous. So anyway, just keep it, marked down. Japan selling our treasuries, 1.13 trillion, and China's $53 trillion collapse. However, China's got 60,000 tons of gold, and they can say, fuck off. We don't care. We have gold. And that's the key. If you have gold, then you've got the value and you're fine, and it's real money. So you're fine with it, even though your yuan might not be worth anything. China's yuan will never be anything. It's worthless. However, the gold, as we know, is always worth it because you can't print the thing. And that's what people don't quite understand about gold. You can't print it. The value is not real because they are keeping it down. Comex is keeping the price down. But it's not because you see the economy. Well, we know the economy sucks. We can go to the grocery store and things are more expensive. That's the biggest tell. We're looking at tells in poker. That's your biggest tell. Wait, you raise the price. That means your dollars are worthless. Profit, it's called insider trading. Trump is very good at manipulating the markets. Well, all the governments, yes, I know that's insider trading, or all the governments are, you can tell I'm dieting celery. All the governments are corrupt in the world. So don't think if you're capitalist or socialist that the government's not corrupt. They listen, oh, Trump's going to take the tariffs down and the stock market's going to go up. These are just short-term games. And we don't even know that's really the reason stocks go up and down is because Trump says something, right? Oh, wait, Trump said this, so let's buy stock. That's bullshit too. That's just a comment, but it's not real. China is broke. China's tax crisis. So because they've lost $8 trillion, just disappeared, because let's explain how the game works. We go to work, we pay taxes. So we get a skill we need businesses to work for. We go to General Motors and we work and we pay taxes. Then we go buy things, and then we go buy a bicycle or golf clubs, and those companies then hire people and they pay taxes. So when everything's going good, there's more businesses out there because there's more people buying goods and services, and there's more people paying taxes. However, when it gets reversed, and now GM lays off people, and now you're not working, you're spending less because you have less to spend. And so therefore these other companies, the golf company or the bicycle company, lays off their people. And so they're not working, so they're not paying a lot in taxes. Neither is the company if they stay in business or if they don't stay in business. So there's less tax coming in. And China is broke. China's tax crisis was people lost all their money in the housing market. Evergrande and the other one, they had all their money in the houses. The houses weren't built. They have no assets. So you paid $1 million for the house, and the house didn't get built. But because it's not built, you don't have your million. You don't have your asset. You're fucked. You lost your million. So that's why, and nobody's in the stock market in China. They're all in, now they're buying gold. They were buying houses. Real estate was the thing. You'd get married. The wife would marry you because you had real estate. It's all fucked up in China, right? Oh, you got to have a house to marry me. India is different. They do gold in India. You have to get married. You got to give her gold and the family gold, and it's crazy. Considering they don't believe in gold standard, although they're starting to. So China, $6 trillion just gone. So you have less people working. I show you the empty streets. Nobody's working, so there's no market. If I want to sell my Canadian club, I need a buyer, right? So I'm going to sell you this, and I'm going to sell it to you for $75 because it's 12 years old. Well, it's more than that, but it was aged 12 years. And it only works if I have a buyer. I have to be able to sell it to somebody. And if there's no buyer out there, I can't sell it. It doesn't have a value. Well, if nobody's working, there's less and less buyers. So you have all these malls in China, as they show you, and they're all empty because you don't have the buyer to buy from the malls. And what's going to happen to the stores in the malls? All go out of business because they have zero revenue. Very simple business. You start a business if your revenue is over your cost. So if it costs 50 and you can charge 70 for it, you go into business. And the business ends when your costs go to 90, but your revenue is still 70, and you're losing 20. You don't make profit. You're losing money. You go out of business. You're not in business to lose money. You're in business to make money. And it's as simple as that. And now we're in the situation where there's no customers, or your costs, like a McDonald's, your costs are $10. You can't sell your burgers for $15. Nobody's going to buy it at McDonald's, so you got to go out of business. So when you see stores go out of business, it's simply because their costs have went up, but they can't. I don't know why everybody thinks they'll just pass the cost on. Oh yeah, Toyota or GM or Ford, the steel cost has gone up because of Trump's stupid tariffs. And because it's went up, we'll just add the cost to the vehicle, and people will just pay more for it. Well, people don't do that. They'll look for substitutions if they got to buy Korean or Japan or Germany or other countries, Hyundai. They will go buy that. They need a car, but the car they need is not going to be. They're not going to just buy a GM because of that, or Ford. They're not going to buy a Ford because it's a Ford. It's a car they're buying, and they're going to look and they're going to research it. So if Ford just raises their prices, they're killing their own, they're slitting their own throats, because people don't need to buy a Ford. Nobody's brand loyal. Maybe Mercedes. That's where the Ferrari, something like that. Maybe then I'm going to buy Mercedes no matter what. But most people are like, I'll buy Toyota. Honda's better, or Hyundai. They're all cheaper than Ford and GM. Oh, fuck Ford and GM. I need a car, and that's it. Now, here we do need cars, but we do have the competition, and we will see. But again, if there's no buyers, Ford and GM are out of business. And to think that Ford can go into China and sell, they're out of their minds. And they think, well, there's tariffs on Ford and GM in China, and they don't sell any cars, who cares? You're selling the cars and making money in America. That's your primary target, not how many cars you sell in China. That doesn't matter. How many people can afford a car in China? And why would they buy Ford? Ford's a piece of crap anyway. In Germany, everybody's driving a Mercedes or BMW, and once in a while, a Toyota. I was in a Toyota Camry in Russia. We got a ride with the guy driving a Camry. I loved it. And that was it. I mean, you're just basically, that's what you're looking at. So it's all about the market. So if your cost is lower than your selling price and you can make money, you go into business. But when your cost goes over your price, which is what's happening now with the tariffs are an artificial cost that nobody's calculating. It's an extra cost into the transaction, which makes you not be able to be in the market, because now my cost went from 50 to 100, but my sales price is 70. I got a closed store. Why do you want to kill the economy? Then you get no taxes, right? Because I'm not paying taxes. I'm going out of business. I'm going to lay all the people, so they're not going to pay taxes. So you can see the domino structure. On the other hand, when everything's going well, I'm going to open up a business. I can sell cupcakes for $1, and I can buy them for, my cost is $1, and I can sell them for $2. And then I need to hire bakers and order ovens and buy the wheat, and I need salesmen and cashiers and things like that. So I got to hire people, puts them to work. They pay taxes. That's why you don't have high tax rates, because you can't take the incentive of working away. And that's why the welfare state's a problem. Oh, that's why everybody loves socialism. Oh, I don't have to work and I'm going to get paid. That's why everybody likes the socialism, but they don't see the other side of the coin, as I was trying to explain. So, oh, you mean I don't have to work and I get paid from the government? Now, you're fucked when that happens. And that's what's happening in sports. You're overpaying the guys. Before, you would pay them and they'd work, they in football, they'd play 10 years, 12 years. Now you're overpaying them that they really have no incentive, especially if it's guaranteed money. That's the stupidest thing you can do. If you have guaranteed money, I'd be just, my back's a little sore today. I'm going to sit it out because I already got paid. Why should I get hurt? I get hurt because I need the money. But when I've got the money guaranteed, I'm not going to play today. And this is what you have. You have a few guys who are passionate for it. Most of the guys they're in it for the money. And that's the wrong, and you can see it on the field, especially baseball. These guys suck. They're in it for the money. And basketball, let's shoot 3-point shots. Why? Who's the coach of this team? What idiot is coaching it? The owner has no clue, and the guaranteed money, and let's pay the quarterback $50 million. You're killing the incentive to play. Once the guy gets paid, and if you guarantee it, hey, I'm not trying. I'm not going to get killed. These guys are out to kill me. I'm not going to play. I'm injured. I hurt. My back hurts. I can't play. I got a hamstring, which nobody can think. But that's really business, and then why you get out of business. So if my costs go from $50 to $100 and my revenue stays at 70, my profit goes from plus 20 to minus 30, am I going to stay in business? So when you see McDonald's and Wendy's and Burger King going out of business because they're too expensive, people don't have the money to shop there. People go to the grocery store now and they buy, like me, I go buy the hamburger and I cook the fucking thing at $6 a pound. So for $18, which it should be $2 a pound, I make 8 or 9 hamburgers. Like now, I just made a roast over the weekend. I still got some of it left. There's a 3-pound roast. I paid $9 a pound. Still much cheaper than going to McDonald's and much better quality. It was like an English roast or something. So I have some left, which I'll probably make for dinner. And even though eggs went up, it's still very healthy. And that's why you fast a little, drink some water, drink your lemon, drink your spices, and drink your, I had my avocado. I had my lemon and olive oil breakfast and an avocado, but I get them from Walmart. They're only $1, but they're hard like baseballs. So it takes 3-4 days for them to finally soften up. But anyway, that's what business is. And so when you start doing tariffs, you raise the cost. And everybody think, well, they'll just pass the cost on. Your prices are going to go up. And that's why I argue, no, they're not going to go up. I'm not going to pay for them. And if nobody pays $3.50 for 2-liter Coke, guess what? The price comes down. Or they start buy one, get one free type of crap. And that's what you see a lot at the grocery store now. Buy one, get one free, buy two, get one free. So they're really, if you're going to buy like dark chocolate, if I buy 3 of them, which I would, then I just divided the 2 by 3 and I'm paying $2. Okay, that's fine. But that's what you have. So the groceries are raising their price. It's the inflation. It's the money that's worth nothing. And this is our biggest problem. The government with the monopoly on the Federal Reserve printing the money, JP Morgan, but they're caught because they've got to pay the $37 trillion debt. The debt is caused by big government, which does not produce revenue. The government doesn't make you money. The idea of the war is we'll sell we have no other option. Let's make all these missiles and tanks and planes and we'll sell them. This is the government's thinking. So we'll have a war so we can sell our military equipment. The countries at war, well, let's have Ukraine buy it, and then we'll make all the NATO countries buy our military. So we'll force them to buy our stuff, which they're going to tell you to fuck off because they don't want wars anyway. And so they're going to do that. And I know, I got to tell you about China and this bullet train.
Hey, it's Brian Tyler Cohen. In a moment, I'm going to ask you if you can make a $10 donation to More Perfect Union. But first,
unrest is growing in China. Fresh protests have broken.
Coming in, and that's a problem when you're...
Unrest is growing.
Okay, so that's your problem, right? So we'll create a market, and our market's going to be military equipment, guns, rifles, ammunition, bombs, tanks, planes, boats. We're going to make that, but there's no demand for that because there has to be a war. So we'll create wars that people will then buy our equipment, and then we'll have to hire people to make it. What kind of warped thinking is this? So this is the only thing come up with is we'll make countries buy our military at expensive prices. And, you got to spend 2% of your GDP, or, you got to spend it like they went to Saudi Arabia, Trump did, to get Saudi to buy $1 trillion worth of the government. But you think he's got $1 trillion in his back pocket? He might say he's going to do it, but he's probably not. Why would he? He's got Russia backing him. I'm sure he's got military of his own and probably has these things. So I think that's the game plan with Russia. We'll keep making them fire missiles and tanks and all this stuff, and we'll keep the war going till they go broke because things are expensive. Not a bad theory, but you don't have any people, so all of a sudden everybody hates Russia for some reason because they're Catholic or Christian, they're Orthodox Christian or Catholic, and because they don't want to let the Muslims in, they don't want to let the immigration in. So we don't like them because they won't allow the immigration that's ruining London and Paris and all these other countries, Germany, who are letting in all these immigrants who are basically blowing up Europe. And Russia says, no, we're not letting, we're what, Orthodox Catholics or Christians, and that's all we want. We don't want new people in. That's what the war is really about, I believe. A little bit to do with NATO. We don't want NATO in Ukraine. They want to get the Nazis out of Ukraine. Okay, I understand that. Why it's going on so long, Zelensky won't quit, because he's getting paid to keep fighting. And he's getting the equipment. I don't know if he has to pay it back or not. Trump wants everybody to pay. Okay, you got our equipment, you pay for it. Well, Ukraine doesn't have any money. Most of these countries don't have any money. So this is the last gasp. Well, we're all broke. We're all in a recession. We'll have a war, and we'll make money selling defense contractors, defense equipment. What a great plan that is, right? So do people have the money? No. Are people all going to buy it? No. Are we going to get all this money in that's going to save us? No. So this is the CIA's game plan. It's ridiculous. Well, we don't care that 1.5 million people have died in the Ukraine. Well, but we'll get out of our recession that way. The fuck is wrong with these people? So this is your real problem. This is why the war is lasting. And then we have one in Israel, and India and Pakistan are having a war because their economies suck. People think it's a way. We've ruined the money. We've ruined the economy. We're in a recession. So we'll build military equipment. Where are you getting the money for that? Or do you already have the military, which is putting you into the recession? Like the U.S. spends $1 trillion a year in the military. As I said, government doesn't produce revenue. It's just a cost. That's part of your debt, the government and the interest on your debt. So we have all this military equipment. So the only way we can sell is to sell our military equipment. It's the only thing we have. We can't sell anything else. Our education, our DOD, our Jack Bauer unit, the CTU, and at the airport, the TSA. Well, that doesn't produce revenue. The only thing we have is the military, which we spend $1 trillion a year in the budget on. So we're trying to sell the $1 trillion in the budget and get money out of it if you can. You can't force people to spend because they're all broke. And are you even getting the $1 trillion back, which is probably highly unlikely. And that's why the defense contractors give the lobbyists all the money, is because that's the only way they can sell. They got to have a war to sell their shit. It's the stupidest, craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. So that's really the problem. That's why you see these wars, and that's why you see the war go on. In Russia, they want to bankrupt Russia by keeping the war going because it is expensive to have your tanks. However, the drones are probably a lot cheaper because they're man-made. So you can just put a few bombs on the drones, and they droned Kiev a couple of days ago. So we don't need a big jet or a big plane. So we don't have to spend that much. And we got 25,000 tons of gold, and Putin's got all this gold. So you're really not going to bother Putin or China because they have gold. And that's part of the reason BRICS has all the gold, but they want to, do you want gold or do you want the dollar? At the end of the day, you're going to want gold. So that's really what the government's problem is all these countries, they spend on the government, on the mostly pensions, the debt. They all have huge debt. So all the governments are fucked up because they have money that's not backed by anything. They think they can keep printing it. They all have debt. They all spend more than they bring in taxes. As the population gets old, people aren't working, but they're taking the pension money or the Social Security money. But I'm not working, so I'm not paying into the tax, but I am pulling it. So all these countries are going broke. How are they going to buy military, and why? They're not at war. France isn't going to war, neither is the UK or Germany. So they create a war to get everybody to buy military equipment so the US can get out of theirs, but it can't because how much are they actually making? I mean, you spend $1 trillion. Let's say you get $2 trillion out of it. So even if you make $1 trillion, you're still $4 trillion under your budget, and that goes to your debt. You still have $37 trillion. How many wars you want to create? How much military spend can you make? Profit. Why can't they create a new cryptocurrency based on gold? Because it's got to be gold. I mean, Why would I do that? Why don't I just have gold? And I have gold-backed currency like I used to. From 1814 to 1914, the whole world was on the gold standard. It was the best time ever. I think 1879 to 1914 was the most growth in the world ever. So the problem I have with crypto is it's digital. It's not real. At least if I have dollars, I have it. If this is gold back, it's not ripped up. It looks more like this. Why don't I just back this by gold? Why do I need crypto? Crypto, somebody pulls the plug or deletes the program and you got nothing. That's why you want to hold it, right? That's why I want the Bobby Orr card in my hand. I don't want a digital Bobby Orr card. Do you really have it? Well, no. Well, I have it, but it's digital, which means I don't really have it. And how many times can they sell the digital Bobby Orr card? Oh, we'll sell it to 5,000 people who think they have it and nobody does. But if I have the card in my hand, so it's always better to have the card in your hand or the gold in your hand. So crypto, I don't buy it. I don't think it's real. I think it's a Ponzi scheme because it's not real. What do we learn? Oh, you want crypto steak and crypto chicken? Well, good luck eating it. Well, I got a steak here. It says I have a steak. Okay, go eat it. Well, it's digital. Well, yeah, go eat the digital. That's the problem I have. It's got to be real. And so you can do it, but I don't know why you wouldn't just buy gold. And it's going to track it. So whatever the gold value is what that is. Okay, let's talk China. Let's talk malinvestments. We do this a lot with Elon Musk, making electric cars nobody wants, making rockets nobody wants. Apparently, he gets money from China also. That's why he's there. He has deals with China in the U.S., so he's all bullshit. He's not really smart. He just has these deals. So China has this. They built these fast trains because China's such a big country, and these trains go like 350 kilometers an hour. So they go very fast. So they go across the country, and what would take a week is now taking 5-6 hours. Problem was they needed new track, and they're expensive, and now nobody is riding them. Nobody has the money or nobody has the need to go across China. And China has spent trillions of dollars on the trains and nobody's using them. So it's like, oh, let's get into a business. We'll sell cupcakes. And we spend $1 trillion making cupcakes and then nobody wants them. Oh, we made strawberries. Everybody likes blueberries. Oh, we didn't make any blueberries. Nobody wants strawberries. Oh, shit, we're fucked. We didn't do our research and understand what the market wants. We didn't do Say's Law. So they build bullet trains that nobody wants. So let's take a look at China.
In China, fresh protests have broken out in major cities with hundreds rallying, chanting, "We want freedom."
Deserted shopping malls, half-empty apartment complexes, abandoned construction sites. These are all signs of the crisis that has gripped China's property market.
This is really the big concern throughout all of the.
I might need another one for the trains.
Financial instability.
If China's economy stumbles, the global implications will be far-reaching. The way the world deals with Beijing may be in for a lot of rethinking.
China is in a massive debt crisis, and things are looking really bad for the CCP. It turns out that flashy things that China's known for, like their high-speed trains, are in reality failing, money-sucking projects that are taking their economy. As of 2025, China's total debt is over 300% of what the country earns in a year. That's like owing 3 times your entire yearly paycheck. Pretty crazy, right?
At Mint Mobile, we're always looking for innovative ways to save you money, so you
Fuck
can
these
keep paying
commercials.
$15 a month for
country earns in a year. That's like owing 3 times your entire yearly paycheck. Pretty crazy, right? Things have gotten so bad that China's elites are sneaking their money out of the country because they know that everything is about to collapse. In this video, we'll be diving into the untold story of China's debt and how that affects us all right now. Simply put, China owes a huge amount of money that keeps rising by the day. As of 2025, the total debt, including both public and private sectors, is well over 53 trillion US dollars.
The 37 trillion was a lot.
Debt, corporate debt, household debt, and debt from local government financing vehicles. Initially, most of the money was to be used for profitable infrastructure projects, but that has not worked out so well, as you'll soon see. What's troubling about this is that experts say that if this debt is not managed carefully, it could trigger a financial crisis that has the potential to cause a global economic recession. Fortunately, China is trying to fix this by shuffling its debts around and helping the cities pay off old. They're also letting the government borrow a bit more, up to 4% of what the country earns, to take some pressure off. That's an increase of 25% from 2024, which indicates the seriousness of this matter. Whether that will help or not, however, is an entirely different matter. But before we go into China's response, we have to wonder, where did all this debt come from exactly? After all, you don't just wake up owing trillions of dollars. To answer that, let's start with the biggest
US
disappointment,
did.
the high-speed railway.
Okay,
This is
here we
definitely not a popular topic. It's quite possible many of you guys have never heard of this. That's because the CCP spends millions pushing propaganda about high-speed trains and suppressing the dark side of these trains. So, if you can help us in our goal to increase the awareness of this topic, it would play a big role in fighting back against the CCP. Just take a second and hit that like and subscribe button down below. Okay, now let's begin. Back in 2008, when the world faced one of the world's worst recessions, things got pretty bad in China. The world's economy was falling apart. Factories were shutting down, and millions of people were out of work. China didn't want to get stuck in a rut, so they decided to build the fanciest train system ever. China's high-speed railway wasn't just about zipping around the country faster. It was a power move. On one side, it made travel easier, pulling the country closer together under the watchful eye of the central government. The plan wasn't just about trains. It was about making sure everything stayed connected and streamlined. They certainly managed to achieve that, as this railway network is now the biggest in the world, stretching over 29,000 miles or about 48,000 kilometers. By the end of 2025, it is projected to be over 31,000 miles or 50,000 kilometers. For context, that's like wrapping a train track around the entire Earth. These trains connect almost every major city, turning a day-long trip into just a few hours. Outside of the convenience of linking the country together, China used this massive project to kickstart its economy after the financial crisis. The government cranked up demand for concrete and steel, putting millions of people back to work. It was like flipping a switch to reignite industries, fix unemployment, and keep the money flowing. However, years later, the high-speed railway has created a huge problem as it has not turned out as initially hoped. Let's walk through every problem step by step. We'll start with the money troubles, which are a massive headache. The biggest issue with China's high-speed rail is the crazy amount of money it owes. Building all of those tracks, shiny new train stations, and sleek trains meant borrowing tons of cash. The true total cost of China's high-speed rail network, including construction, debt, interest, and subsidies, is likely $1.5 to $2.5 trillion, with the potential to reach $3 trillion by 2035. These are crazy costs. While construction costs are relatively low at $17 to $21 million per kilometer, the debt burden is $1 to $1.5 trillion. The problem is, a lot of these train routes don't make enough money to pay for themselves. When people buy tickets, that money is supposed to help cover the costs. But on many of the railway lines, there aren't enough passengers. For example, a train line in Gansu, a less busy part of China, might have trains running with mostly empty seats. The ticket sales don't even cover the electricity to keep the trains moving, let alone the huge loans used to build them. This has resulted in ongoing losses of $10 to $20 billion per year for China's railway company. So much for a business venture, right? And this money problem isn't just China Railway's worry. When all this started, cities and provinces helped to pay for these rail lines as an investment. The high-speed rail was supposed to help smaller towns and poorer areas by connecting them to the big cities. The idea was that trains would bring jobs and visitors to places that really needed a boost. But in 2025, it's not really working out that way for everyone. Big cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou get the most trains at the busiest stations, so they're doing great. But smaller towns sometimes lose out. People and businesses move to the big cities because it's easier to get around, leaving smaller places quieter than before. It's like the trains are sucking energy away from these towns instead of helping them grow. This has left the local governments in deep trouble too, with debts piling up to trillions of yuan and no income to cover the hefty payments. Because of this underutilization, not only is the railway company losing money, but it has started to slow down on building more networks. In 2021, work on a 270-kilometer line connecting Jinan, the capital of China's East Shandong province, and the city of Zhaozhuang in the province's south was suspended. The project had a cost estimate of 130 billion yuan, or $200 billion. I'm sure they too concluded that not only did they not have the funds to spend here, but they would likely never recover the money if they did. With China having such huge debt.
So let's understand what's going on. This is what is called a malinvestment. What's a malinvestment? Good question, Prophet. A malinvestment is when there's no demand for the investment you're making. Electric cars is an example. Nobody wants an electric car, but Musk is making them. And then what is he going to force you to buy one? Now that was done by the mandate. We're not going to use gas-powered cars anymore. Okay, fine. But I'm not going to buy, I will never buy a electric car. I don't know where I'm going to charge it in. I was at Toyota and they're trying to get me into a hybrid. They said, well, we're going to stop making them in 2030. And I says, well, then I'll go buy somebody else. Somebody else will be making them. I will not buy an electric car because I don't want to worry about charging the fucker in. I have no problem with my gas car going to the gas station and filling it up, which is I'm going to do later. So this is where the problems lie. You must listen to the market. This is what capitalism is. This is what Adam Smith, this is Say's Law. This is our Bible. You make what people want. There's got to be demand, and then you make the product, not the other way around. So they've made this high-end fast train system, which costs $3 trillion at least. There's nobody on it. Nobody's using it. Now you've got everybody leaving China and this big recession. So they don't even know they're leaving to go to Vietnam or Korea. They're going to a different country. They're going to Singapore with Pat. They're not there. Nobody is sitting in China. There's no jobs. So you have this high-speed rail that nobody wants, and you spent $3 trillion, but you're not going to recover $3 trillion. So you're losing money, hence the debt. They did that in California from I believe it was San Francisco to LA. They're supposed to have this high fast train going, so you don't have to worry about about driving. And they never did. They spent billions on it, and they laid a mile of track. So they just stole the money, basically. Government's good at doing that. So this is a malinvestment. You created a train that nobody wants. Are you out of your mind? And this is what they did. Therefore, now you've got what they got, 60 trillion in debt. We got 37. They got 60. Well, it all ends bad for everybody. They're smart enough to have the gold, and this is probably why they're buying all the gold, because they got 60 trillion in debt, and probably more than that. And this is the problem. So when you're going into business, you make sure there's demand for it. You make sure what your costs are. You make sure what your price is, and you look at all the variables that could fuck you up. So again, the barbecue, you sell the ribs at market at $30, you can't go to 45. If you go, there won't be a buyer. And that's the thing. Now, gold's different because gold, the demand is huge and people will pay whatever to get out of dollars. So it's a little bit different story. I'm buying gold because this is worthless. I'm buying gold because this is worthless, right? So if they're worthless and the only answer is gold, it's a lot different. If the train was the only transportation, then you might ride it. But apparently the tickets are very expensive also. So you've got the track, you've got the train, you've got the stations, you've got all these costs. And what do you need? This tickets at $50 and nobody's buying them. It's too expensive. They'll just take another train, or they'll drive, or they'll fly, or whatever it is they do there in China. So that'd be like making a bullet train to Vegas, but it would be very expensive, and nobody wants to take a train from Detroit to Vegas. So I'll just fly. Thank you very much. There's the competition. There's the substitute. So there's always substitute goods. I can drive my car to Vegas. I don't need to fly, or I don't need to take a bullet train. We don't have any trains here. This is insanity, America. It's all cars, and you drive yourself. That's why I like Europe a lot. Switzerland, you just get on a tram, and for $2 you tram down around the city, and you go eat and you go shop, and then you tram back to the hotel. I mean, it's nice. So again, this is electric cars, right? Why Elon Musk's stock is worth so much, I have no idea. It shouldn't be, but that's the point of it. This is a perfect example. And now you have a $60 trillion debt that you can't pay. You can't print the money. If you notice, these countries, why don't they just print the money and print their way, and just, here's $60 trillion to get out of debt? Because you can't. If you do, the money is gone. The money is worthless because you can't just print. So anyway, a little bit more of this.
Money management with the local government is a big deal. Failure to manage this debt, as we are seeing from China Railway and these local governments, has the potential to cause trouble for the whole country's economy. Moving on, the train issue and its debt crisis are made worse by the fact that running these high-speed trains is also really expensive. They need special tracks that can handle super fast speeds, high-tech systems, and a ton of electricity. All this makes them about 3 times more costly to run than regular slower trains. So even when trains have some passengers, making enough money to cover those costs is hard. That has ushered in another problem for the citizens.
This is the pink salt recipe that took me from 178 to 126 in just a few weeks. And
for the citizens. Because of the need to keep up the costs of operating these trains, the tickets are now very expensive. For a lot of ordinary people, especially those who don't have much money, that cost is simply too high. A ticket on a slow train might be 20 yuan, but a high-speed train could cost 100 yuan or...
See, again, you're over market. What is the market? What will the market pay for these high-speed tickets? He's saying now you can go on a low-speed train, so there's competition for 20. These are over $100 for these. You're in a recession. People are losing their jobs. They're not going to pay $100 to go on a high-speed train. They don't need to go. They can go on the slower speed train and get there a few hours later and still get from point A to point B. So again, you don't understand your market. You cannot sell these tickets at $100, especially if you have the other train where it's 20.
More for the same trip. That's a big difference for someone working a regular job like a farmer or a shop clerk. Hidden behind the shiny infrastructure of China's high-speed rail systems is another big problem: safety issues. These aren't just small hiccups either. They've caused a lot of trouble and added a ton of extra costs, which is making China's railway debt even worse. Back in 2011, there was a really bad train crash in a place called Wenxiao. 2 high-speed trains smashed into each other because of a lightning strike that messed up the signal system. It was awful, with 40 people losing their lives and almost 200 others getting hurt. People were shocked, and it made everyone question whether these super fast trains were actually safe. The government had to step in fast. They stopped approving new rail projects for a while and made all the trains slow down from 350 kilometers per hour to 300. Now, that might not sound like a big deal, but it meant longer travel times, which annoyed passengers and meant fewer people wanted to ride the trains. Fewer riders equals less money coming in, and that's a problem when you're already drowning in debt. On top of that, they had to do a ton of safety checks across the whole network, and those aren't cheap. Imagine having to inspect thousands of kilometers of tracks and equipment that's supposed to last for decades. It's a huge expense, and it's money the railway company didn't plan to spend. Then there's the issue of how some of these tracks and bridges were built. There have been stories about builders cutting corners, like using low-quality materials to save a few bucks. For example, a few years ago, they found out that some bridge pillars in Shandong were way shorter than they were supposed to be. That's not just a small mistake, it's a safety disaster waiting to happen. Fixing stuff like that means tearing things down and rebuilding, which costs millions. And to keep things safer moving forward, the railway company has recently been pouring money into AI systems that watch the tracks in real time. These systems are great because they cut down on problems like track breaks, but they're also super expensive to install and keep running. All these extra costs, from slowing trains down to fixing bad construction and buying new tech, are piling up. China's railway is already deep in debt, and these safety fixes are making it harder for them to pay that back. It's like trying to fix a leaky boat while you're still sinking. Now, if safety issues weren't bad enough, let's talk about another huge problem: corruption. This one's a real mess, and it's been bleeding money out of the railway system for years. As you guys know, the Trump administration's main focus has been to secure our supply chains from China and protect our national security. One of the most important parts of our national security is securing our access to copper. Copper is often called the new oil. It is at percent since early February due to market turmoil. By giving train contracts to his friends or demanding a cut of the deals. Investigators found 5 billion yuan, or about $700 million, in shady deals on just the Beijing-Shanghai line alone. That's money that should have gone into building better tracks or paying off loans, but instead it just disappeared. These weren't just one-off problems either. Auditors found all sorts of shady stuff, like fake receipts and companies charging way more than they should have for simple things. For example, they once spent almost $3 million on a 5-minute video to show off the railway. $3 million for a video. That's the kind of wasteful spending that happens when people are skimming money off the top. All this corruption made building the railway lines way more expensive than they needed to be, leaving a huge burden on the local governments to pay. It's not just about the money that gets stolen, though. When people are cutting deals under the table, they often pick companies that aren't even qualified to do the work. That leads to things like poor quality builds I mentioned earlier, which then needs to be fixed, costing even more. And because so much money has been wasted, the railway company struggles to make enough to pay back its loans. They owe almost $1 trillion now, and a big chunk of that is because of this shady business. The government keeps stepping in to help, but that just means taxpayers are footing the bill, and it adds to the country's overall debt. It's a vicious cycle. Corruption makes the rail projects more expensive, which makes the debt bigger, which makes it harder for China to keep its economy stable. Between the safety problems...
Does that sound familiar? We're 37 trillion in debt. We have all the corruption, military spend. So it's every country. So it's not like just in the US, but this is what you're dealing with. This is why you buy gold. You cannot fuck around with gold. It can't be corrupted. You can't counterfeit it. You can't copy it. Can't print it. It's gold. It's coined, it's minted, it's gold, it's real, and you put it away. That's the beauty of gold. You can't have all this corruption. Well, I guess you could still have corruption where the government, you'd still pay off people, but you'd pay it in gold, but you'd be crazy to do that. So anyway, this is the problem with money. There's too much of it, and then you can't follow it, and then it's corrupt, and then the debt goes up, and you're all fucked.
And the corruption. It's like the railway system is a giant money pit that's dragging the whole country deeper into financial trouble. To further expand on just how big of a problem the failing trains are, let's talk about a fund that helped build China's railway. In 2014, the government started the China Railway Development Fund to raise money for high-speed trains. Banks and big companies invested in it by buying bonds, which paid up to 5.78% interest in 2014.
I went from a size extra large to a medium in just 18 days, and all I did was make the
78% interest in 2014. That seemed like a solid deal since the government backed it. But in 2020, COVID-19 pandemic hit and the train ridership crashed by over 50% because of the lockdowns. The China State Railway Group, which runs the trains, lost tons of money. The Railway Development Fund struggled to pay the promised interest, and by 2020, the bond paid only 3.97%. Investors earned less than they expected, but government support meant they didn't lose everything. And by 2022, the railway company owed nearly $1 trillion. This made some investors doubt the railway and other government projects. Less trust makes it harder for these companies to borrow money, which can slow down China's economy. This loss of trust is a big deal, but it's not the only way the railway mess is hurting China. Like I just mentioned, the government is spending a ton of cash to keep the railway company from going under. They can't let it fail because it's a state-owned business, and a collapse would look really bad. In 2025, they had to borrow even more money, adding 300 billion yuan, which is just over $41 billion in new railway bonds. They also set a higher budget deficit to cover all sorts of debts, including the trains. That's money that could have gone to things like schools, hospitals, or fixing roads. Instead, it's being used to pay off old loans or keep trains running. This means less money for teachers, doctors, or new bridges, which makes life harder for regular people. That's why in recent years we have seen more and more people speak out. Tens of thousands of Chinese pensioners even took to the streets of Wuhan to protest against the government cutting their medical benefits. In true authoritarian fashion, the CCP authorities sent in the police. Take a look. When the government has to keep pouring cash into sinking ships like the railway, it can't afford to help other parts of the economy that need it more. And it's not just the government feeling the pinch. The railway's troubles are hitting workers and industries hard too. Building all those train tracks and stations used to be a huge job creator. Every kilometer of high-speed rail meant lots of work for people making steel, pouring concrete, or laying the tracks. Back in the day, this was a lifeline for workers that the government used to keep the economy going. But now, with so many train lines losing money, some projects are being slowed down or canceled. That means fewer jobs in steel and construction. Factories that make steel for train tracks are struggling now because there's less demand. Construction workers who used to have steady paychecks are finding it harder to get work. This is tough for families who rely on those jobs to pay their bills. As of the first quarter of 2025, unemployment in cities hit 5.3%, partially because of this slowdown. When people lose work, they spend less, which slows down the economy even more and adds to China's debt troubles. It's like a chain reaction. The railway's problems hit workers, workers spend less, and the whole country feels it. So what's the big picture here? The railway system was supposed to be a symbol of China's strength, but it turned into a financial nightmare. The railway isn't just a train problem, it's a giant roadblock in China's path to fixing its finances, and it's dragging a lot of people down with it. However, high-speed trains aren't the only problem contributing to China's debt issue. China is also having a very serious real estate crisis. Back in the day, real estate was like the golden ticket for China's economy. It made up about a quarter to a third of the country's growth, which is huge when you think about how big China's economy is. People were moving to cities in droves, and developers were building apartments left and right to keep up. Local governments loved it because they made tons of money selling land to these developers. It helped them pay for things like roads and schools. Regular folks saw buying homes as a safe way to store their savings, kind of like a bank account that might grow over time. Developers borrowed a lot of money to keep building these projects, and banks were happy to lend. Why? Because the property market seemed unstoppable. It was a win-win, or so everyone thought. But all that borrowing and building set the stage for some serious problems. Then, in 2020, the government decided things were getting out of hand. They saw a housing bubble forming. Prices were sky high and developers were borrowing way too much. So they introduced rules called the 3 red lines to limit how much debt developers could take on. The idea was to cool things down and make homes more affordable. But it backfired. Developers like Evergrande, which owed over $300 billion, and Country Garden, with about $190 billion in debt, got caught in a cash crunch. They couldn't borrow more money, and when home sales started slowing down, they didn't have enough money to pay their bills. Many started defaulting, which means they couldn't pay back their loans or bondholders. Evergrande, a huge real estate giant, filed for bankruptcy protection in 2021. Country Garden, another giant, narrowly avoided default in 2023 by making last-minute payments. These weren't small companies, so their collapse sent shockwaves through the economy. When giants like these stumble, it's not just their problem, it's everyone's. Now, you might be wondering why this matters so much to China's debt crisis. Well, when developers default, it's like a domino effect. Banks that lend the money lose out, and so do investors who bought their bonds. Some of those investors are regular people who put their savings into wealth management products tied to real estate, thinking they were safe. When developers can't pay, those savings take a hit, and people lose trust in the system. Plus, all those thousands of unfinished apartment buildings mean buyers who paid up front were left with nothing. Because of these real estate issues, in 2022, some homebuyers even stopped paying their mortgages in protest, which put more pressure on the banks. The real estate market is so big that its problems ripple out, making it harder for banks to lend and for people to spend. And when banks and consumers pull back, the whole economy slows down, which makes it tougher to manage debt.
What I don't understand is why would you pay for the house up front? I bought a house. I gave them a little bit here and a little bit when the basement was done and a little bit when the roof was on, and then at the end. So I don't understand all these Chinese people paying for the house up front, and then they never made the house. So not only does the mortgage company or the developer fuck them, they don't have anything, right? They can't sell the house because they don't have the house. There's way more supply than demand. So they're making 1 million houses and there's not 1 million supply, which kills the value. So what are they doing? Right. So then you can see the bondholders suffer, everybody loses, and they don't use stocks like we do. So China, like you buy houses, you buy real estate in China. That's instead of stock. Now everybody's running to gold, and that's why you have no doubt in the gold going to the moon, because you got a lot of Chinese who are buying gold. The Chinese government, how do you think they're getting out of this debt? They're going to gold. So they have 60,000 tons of gold, because you can see this is the problem with communism. They make things that are not good. They're corrupt as shit. They build houses and then they don't finish them. And the people are the ones that suffer. This is the problem. This is why you need a free market. I'll pay you when the house is done. I'll give you partial payments, and that's it. That's how you have to do it. You kind of, it's deposit, and then when it's done, okay, now I'll give you the last amount for the house. I go into the house, it's finished, and I can sell the house if I want. So I don't know what they're doing in China, that they're paying for the house before it's done, but you got some stupid consumers there. That's all I can say. Anyway, that's the big problem. So we don't have to go through all of this, but well, we'll go through a little bit. He's just explaining it, so I want to get to.
Much like the train debt situation, guess who was at the heart of the trouble again? Yes, local governments. They used to make about 40% of their money from selling land to developers. But with the property market tanking, land sales have dropped by as much as 30% in some years. That's a huge chunk of their budget just gone. Local governments owe around $9 trillion, and without land sale money, they're struggling to pay that back or fund basic services.
I'm Shane, the founder and CEO of Mudwater.
See, I think when I
and
pause, it goes to
What's the
commercials.
difference between Mudwater and
Shut the
$1
fuck
million, and without land sale money, they're struggling to pay that back or fund basic services. Some are even borrowing more just to keep things running, which adds to China's overall debt pile. The central government has tried to help by offering loans or buying up empty apartments, but it's just not enough. For example, in 2024, they announced $42 billion to buy unsold homes. However, with 60 to 80 million empty apartments worth trillions, that's like putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg. Local governments are stuck, and their debt problems are dragging down the whole country. Another big issue is how the real estate crisis is shaking people's confidence. In China, owning a home is a big deal. It's not just a place to live, but it's a sign of stability. When prices started falling, down 20% in 2024 alone, with 13 months of straight declines, people felt less wealthy. That makes them spend less on things like cars or clothes, which hurts local businesses. Consumer spending is already weak because of tough COVID lockdowns that lasted until 2022. And now, with homes losing value, people are holding on to their cash. Businesses, especially small ones, are closing, and jobs are disappearing. Already, 500,000 real estate jobs have vanished since 2020. Less spending and fewer jobs mean the economy grows more slowly, which makes it harder to pay off debts.
Crashes.
It's like a cycle that keeps feeding itself. And the real estate mess also ties into China's banks and the shadow banking system, which is worth about $3 trillion. Shadow banks are unofficial lenders that offer high-risk, high-reward investments, often tied to real estate.
They're the ones
When
buying
developers
the
default,
gold.
these shadow banks lose money, and so do the people who invested in them. In 2023, a big trust firm called Zhongrong missed payments on its products, sparking fears about the whole shadow banking system. Regular banks are also hurting because they lent so much to developers and local governments. If too many loans go bad, banks might not have enough money to lend out, which would freeze up the economy even more. The government has tight control over banks, so a total collapse is unlikely, but the damage is still real, and it's adding to the debt burden. On top of all of this, China's population isn't helping. The country is aging fast, and fewer young people are buying homes. Urbanization is slowing down, so the demand for new apartments isn't really what it used to be. Developers built way too many homes expecting the population to keep growing, but now there's a massive oversupply. Those 60 to 80 million empty apartments are just sitting there as a reminder that developers borrowed billions for projects no one needs. This oversupply keeps prices low, which hurts developers, banks, and anyone who owns property. It's a structural problem, meaning it's not going away soon. And it's making the debt crisis tougher to fix because there's no quick way to boost demand. This debt is shaking up China's economy in big ways. Banks are in a tough spot. They lent billions to the trains and housing companies expected to get paid back. But with trains losing money and housing projects stalled, banks are holding loans that might never be repaid. For example, the Industrial and Commercial Bank lent 500 billion yuan to railway projects, and now it's struggling to get that back. This means banks have less money to lend to other businesses, like a noodle shop or a bike factory, which slows down the economy. Things are so bad that in May of 2025, China revealed plans to issue 500 billion yuan, which is about $68 billion, in special sovereign bonds, as it seeks to boost capital at its biggest banks to support the economic recovery. Unfortunately, because China is such a major player in global trade, its financial troubles affect everyone. China's debt problems have hit global trade hard since the country is the world's manufacturing hub. If their debt issues cause factories to shut down or cut back, it disrupts supply chains everywhere.
Oh, what about the tariffs? So what's Trump doing? China's in trouble. He's hitting them with tariffs. Is he trying to bankrupt them? Oh, wait, they have 60,000 tons of gold. Yeah, I guess you forgot about that. So you can see the problem with tariffs in China. So what are you trying to do? Do you think you're going to sell your goods? So let's say there was free trade and none of this tariff shit. You think you're going to sell goods in China? Who's going to buy them? Who wants American-made shit anyway? Okay, the iPhones they sell because Apple's in China. But a lot of companies are going to Vietnam and India because the labor is cheaper, and these tariffs are basically driving everybody out. So China's in big trouble. Now, maybe that's their plan, to bankrupt China. But they got 60,000 tons of gold. You're not going to do that because you can't compete with 60,000 tons of gold. So China is very passive. They don't want to come out with the gold-backed currency and kill the dollar, but they're going to have to because they're broke. They got this huge debt. China will come out with gold-backed currency, and I believe that's already starting to happen. For sure, July 17th in Brazil, they will announce, I'm sure, China and that. And now, what do you think the price of gold is going to go? If they have 60,000 tons of gold and they've got to pay this debt off, $60 trillion. Ours is only 37 trillion, but that's just government debt. Theirs is all the debt. $60 trillion debt. How much do you want the gold price to be? Enough to cover 60,000 tons of gold to cover the debt and get them out of the debt. So we're looking at a much, much higher gold price. And they have the Shanghai Gold Exchange for physical, as does Russia, as does Dubai. And therefore, they're all in the same boat with these debts. And guess what? They have all this gold. They need the gold price to go a little bit higher than 3,300, like 33,000. So we're just going along for the ride. We see all the problems. It's a no-brainer. Buy as much gold. And believe me, silver will come along because they're going to need, there's not that much gold. There's only 200,000 tons. So as gold becomes 20,000 an ounce, most people can't afford more. They're going to go to silver at $33 and go, oh, shit, it's $33. Let's load up on the silver to help get them out of the debt. And that'll go to 2,000-3,000 an ounce. So we can see where it's all headed based on idiot governments not knowing what the fuck they're doing. All right, let's watch the last couple of minutes.
Stores in places like the US or Europe might struggle to stock products if Chinese factories can't deliver. Countries that sell goods to China, like South Korea and Japan, would see their exports drop if China's demand weakens. Nations like Australia and Brazil, which supply raw materials such as iron ore and soybeans, also get hurt when China's economy slows. Beijing's construction and manufacturing drive this demand, but a debt crisis could mean China buys less. And now let's look at financial markets, where China's debt creates serious risk. Investors from the US and Europe, including pension funds, have poured billions into Chinese real estate companies. If those companies can't pay their debts, these investors take a big loss. Chinese banks are also heavily involved. They tend to provide loans to risky projects like local government projects and property developments. If those loans go bad, banks might have less cash to lend, even to businesses outside of China.
I saw the pink salt recipe in a 30-second video, and 21 days later, I left my friends speechless because no one could believe I was the same.
Banks might have less cash to lend, even to businesses outside of China. This could make borrowing harder for companies worldwide, tightening money flows across the globe. It's a chain reaction that spreads financial pressure far beyond China. Speaking of life beyond China, let's shift to developing countries, particularly those tied to China's Belt and Road Initiative. China has loaned huge amounts of money to nations like Sri Lanka, Zambia, and Pakistan to build infrastructure like ports and roads. If China's debt crisis limits its ability to fund these projects or offer new loans, these countries are left with unfinished work. Because the work is unfinished, they won't be able to use these projects to pay back their debts. China is often slow to forgive these loans, which means those nations are in a lot of trouble. When many countries face economic hardship, it weakens global growth, as struggling economies can't contribute much. So you see, that's an easy way of turning China's crisis into global issues. There's also a chance that if backed into a corner, China might weaken its currency, the yuan, to make exports cheaper. This could spark trade disputes, as other countries might lower their currencies in response. As you can imagine, this would create a chaotic trade environment. After all, China's push to sell products like electric cars and batteries abroad is already causing tension in the US and Europe. These conflicts make global trade even more challenging for everyone. So, to circle back to the big question that we started off with, what's China doing to stop this debt crisis from turning into a disaster? Well, fortunately, China has some strengths working in its favor. For one, most of their debt is owed to themselves. It's basically Chinese banks lending to Chinese companies.
Still debt.
So they've got more control than if they owed France or Japan. They've also got $3.2 trillion in cash reserves, so that certainly helps. In addition, the government is also being careful, having learned from the 2008 financial crisis when big spending led to even more debt. One major step is helping banks lend more by lowering interest rates and giving them extra cash. This keeps money moving to businesses and people.
That's more
China
inflation.
is also putting in a lot of effort to rectify the real estate slump. A few years ago, tough rules caused a giant real estate slump, with some companies going bankrupt. Now, China is easing those rules, lowering mortgage rates to boost home sales. They're also encouraging cities to buy unsold homes, though this plan hasn't been very successful. At the same time, they're letting some companies fail in a controlled way to avoid a wider collapse. The goal right now is to stabilize the property sector without letting it pull the economy down. Local governments are another big concern, as they've borrowed heavily and often hide their debt. China is cracking down on these hidden loans, turning them into clear bonds that are easier to track and manage. They're also pushing local governments to find new ways to raise money, since selling land isn't working with the property market in trouble. It's a difficult change, as finding new revenue takes time and planning. China's also working on long-term changes to its economy. They want people to spend more on things like shopping and services, instead of relying on building factories and roads. But with many people in debt and worried about the economy, that shift is slow. The government is investing heavily in technology like artificial intelligence and green energy. All of this is to spark new growth. These industries show promise, but they're not big enough yet to solve the larger debt problems. Finally, China's trying to keep prices from falling too much, as that makes debts harder to pay. They're adding some money to the economy to stabilize prices, but they're careful not to overdo it. They're also pushing to sell more products like electric cars and batteries abroad, even though this is causing trade disputes. It's a tricky balance, keeping their economy strong without creating new problems at home or with other countries. China's debt crisis is a huge story, and those high-speed trains are a bright, blinking warning sign. They were built to make China look like a champion, connecting cities and wowing the world. But their trillion-dollar cost, half-empty cars, and pricey tickets show what happens when you chase a big dream without a solid plan. To add to that, broke housing companies, over-borrowed cities, and risky loans are all piling up like a shaky tower of cards. The government is fighting back, but only time will tell if China manages to claw its way out of this gauntlet.
China can't, they're fucked. But they're not the only ones fucked. So they create everybody who's relying on China to build stuff. One thing leads to another to another. The answer is gold, because you can't. That's the key to all your problems, all your debt, everything else. So again, look at the gold price to go to the moon, because everybody's got debt. The difference is the U.S. has no gold. China is smart enough to have 60,000 tons. They're still stupid to have these high-speed trains, and the Evergrande messes that they created with the houses and they're trying to sell them. So maybe we should go move to China. The rent must be really cheap there because they got all these houses and condos that they can't sell. So that is the problem. So that's why we're very, very, again, this is good for gold. The inflation is good for gold. The U.S. is the same shit. We're a little bit more free market, so it's more banks instead of governments running shit. How did the government get to a $37 trillion debt? Because they got too big. Again, government doesn't produce revenue. China's trying to do it with these trains, and you can see what's happening. They don't know what the market is, how expensive it was, and what kind of revenue they're going to make from the train. You should have just let the train manufacturers make the train. So in other words, GM says, "Oh, we're going to make trains. We'll make high-speed trains." Not the government doesn't need to do it, and we'll see how much we can afford and what our cost will be, and then what do we got to charge for the ticket, and is it possible? Just like Ford making cars. Well, okay, we got to get all this steel and we got to get all this plants, but we got to sell X amount of cars. But when the interest rate goes up, they can't, and that's why we do not buy car stocks when the interest rate's high, because it's forcing it higher, and people can't afford to buy the cars, and these companies are going to lose money, because they still have the fixed costs of the plants and the steel and everything else to make a car. You got to make 1 million units to break even, and they can't sell 1 million units because nobody's there. Maybe they think, well, we'll sell 1 million units if we sell some to China and Japan and the rest of the world. And maybe that's what this is all about, these tariffs. But nobody wants them. Only in America do you want it. So anyway, that's really the issue. What is the smell? Anyway, so that's what's happening. That's why government should not be involved in business. Let businesses do it. They will know if they can make it for 40 and sell it for 60, then that's the whole point. That's what you're looking at. And that's the key to it. And when government does it, they don't care. Now they got these massive debts. What is this smell? Like an incense or something. That's what you got to do. Anyway, so that's the key, right? And you go from there. And so China, but they have 60,000 tons of gold, and that's what's going to help them. That's how they get out of it, and Russia too. These countries without gold, the U.S., Canada, Britain, are fucked, because they do that. Everybody has this thing where they're printing their own money, but they don't realize they're losing value. And then they're trying to sell and nobody's working, so there's no buyers. So you've got a bunch of markets where there's no buyers. This is the problem. And when you have no buyers, you can't sell anything. You don't have a market, and you lose money because you paid. If I bought 100 bottles of this, I've already paid for it. Now I got to sell it, and there's no buyers for it. Well, I'm out the 100 bottles that I bought or created or made. They sell by the case. Well, they make them by the case, and that's the problem. So I got to keep the economy going. That's why raising taxes kills your economy, which is what raising tariffs kills your economy. What the fuck's Trump thinking? He thinks that he'll raise tariff, he'll get the 37 trillion in for that. He won't, because it drives cost up, and China can't afford tariffs. They can't make things. So the whole thing Trump's trying to do is just, you're causing a depression there, fella. And we don't have the gold to get out of it like China does. And so I don't know if we're keeping the price low on our options on comex. Let's see what's going on there. So it's 236. The U.S. has had the ball for 4 hours. 3302. So we are coming back a little bit. 3302, and silver's a joke at 3324. This is the key because this is going to 1,000. So load up on that. This we'll get at 10,000, but it's just 3,300. It's just a little bit more. Can you afford it? Or you can certainly afford more silver. And I know a lot of people have a lot of silver and they're just waiting for the price fixing to end. And that's what the variable change is doing in with Basel III, July 1st. That'll be the BRICS and Basel III is the variable change that'll make silver get to a real price and not this bullshit option price. But these are done. These are not real prices. These are option prices. As you know, they're called paper prices because they're paper options. It's just like the Big Short movie where the girl's playing blackjack and people are betting on her to win and people are betting on them to win and everybody's betting. And there's only one girl playing the hand. And that's what you have here. You've got all this bullshit. So keep that in mind. You've got to be careful with that. So that's what's happening. And we'll go from there. So I think that's it. Any other questions, comments? Enjoyed this class. Again, the baseball picks, 49ers, 49ers under 7.5. Philly, the Cubs over 7.5. Texas and Arizona are your plays for today. 6 plays. Pretty good yesterday. We went 4-0. We hit basketball. We had Minnesota in 2.5, and finally a close game. Tonight we are playing. That was we're playing the other one. We're playing. No, that was OKC. We're playing Indy to end the series with the Knicks. I think they're up 3-1. No, yeah. I don't remember. Let's see. What are we doing? What's our basketball pick? Yeah, we're taking Indy minus 2.5. It's game 4. It's kind of backs against the wall. I mean, New York has to win it. They're down 3-1, but Indy loses. They're 2-2, and they go to New York, and they'll be down 3-2. So Indy really needs it because they're at home. The Knicks need it because of that, but Indy still had a 20-point lead. They got to stop shooting 3-point shots when they're got a 20-point lead, get the ball into the paint and make sky hooks and dunks and get fouled. I mean, I don't know what their coach is thinking. Bad coaching there. So I think Indy wins tonight, and then the Knicks will win game. Then we set up to bet the Knicks in game 5. At least the Knicks won, but they were down 20 to win. So anyway. So keep in mind in the market, you must make things that people want, not electric cars, not any of this shit. See, electric cars to me are because the government's mandating no more oil, that you needed an electric car. He made the electric cars, but now that's not the case. And nobody's going to buy electric cars. Everybody's saying you're out of your mind. There's no charging stations. You can't possibly do it because there's not enough electricity. If 20 million people in the U.S. start driving electric cars, there's no grids for it. There's no electric. You don't have enough electricity to do it. You need the oil. So I don't know what the hell they're doing, but you don't make the electric cars because there's no demand for it. So that was it. Can't Indy afford to waste a game here? Absolutely not. Because, all right, so let's say they lose. They're 2-2. Then they go to New York and they go down 3-2. Now they put the pressure on themselves. So because this is game, yes, they could theoretically lose it and they wouldn't be eliminated. But thinking it forward as I do, they lose here and then the Knicks win game 5. And now they're facing elimination. Just get the win here, and especially after a loss. So after a loss, they're mad, and then they win. They basically win the series. So I don't think it's we can afford to lose. If they were up 3-1 going, like let's say they're up 3-1 and the game, now we're in game 5, they can afford to lose. So that's what you're talking about would be next game they can afford to lose because they're up 3-1. If they lose, they're still up 3-2, and then they win game 6 in Indy. That should be the thought process. But this is a very much needed win. Otherwise, they'll go down 3-2, and they'll lose 2 straight and go to New York and lose 3 straight. And all of a sudden, you're down 3-2. And you have to win game 6 and you have to win game 7. So I think this is pretty much must win also for Indy in this game. And we're only laying 2.5. I mean, they blew a 20-point lead. So that means the matchup's fine. They beat them the first 2 games. And then this is, and really they should be up 3-0, but okay, they're not, but they certainly are the better team here. So I don't see that. Anyway, so that's what's happening with the debt. The difference is China can pay it off with gold. We can't. China, Russia want gold at a higher price, as you can see, because everybody's in the same situation. They keep printing money. You get these stupid government projects that lose money. The war is killing you because there's no revenue in war. Yeah, the defense contractors can sell theirs, but they're not the government. They might pay more in taxes, but they're not going to make the economy. There's a small portion of the economy. So the war does it. It's more of a cost than a good. And we pay $1 trillion in the budget to the defense contractors. So at best, we break even on it. But that's the only place probably the government gets revenue is selling the defense but that's really not government spend. That's the defense contract. That's Northern Grunub and all these other ones that are making the money, not the government. I mean, they get money on the kickbacks and on the taxes, but that's the individuals, the senators for taking the bribes. Anyway, I think that's about it. Strange I didn't hear from Daria today. That's 2 days after getting out of the hospital. I don't really understand that. That's what bothers me about Daria. Here's Jenna. We're starting to talk again, and she texted me now. Well, okay, I'm home, and I'm waiting for a job. What's Daria doing that you can't talk to me? Now, I don't know. That's this is where you're stoic. I can only control me. I've texted her, hello, good morning. And that's it. I can't control Daria texting me back. And then it gets to the point it either bothers me and I say, fuck off, or I try to listen for the result going, what are you doing? And it gets to the point where you're going, okay, I can't, there's too much uncertainty waiting to hear from you. But I really can't let that bother me. All I can do is when I get a text from her, then I respond until that's why sometimes you see me on here and she's texting me. I'm happy I get a text because she's really inconsistent. But she's got other things and a daughter, and she's busy. So she has things she's going to, maybe her family issues or something. So she's got other things going on. So I can't just think it's about me, where Jenna has a little less things going on and she can have time to just say hi and stuff like that. Anyway, this is the mystery we all have with other people. Where's Bobby been? I can't answer that. I can only say Bobby hasn't been on in a while. Okay, but it's not personal. He's just busy, or he's working now, and I'm on earlier now. So who knows? But all we can do is say hi, Bobby, and then wait for his response and see. All right. Oh, I did college football. I might do a separate show on that, but I'm going to go eat and go to the pool, and I might do it tonight. I think it needs its own show. I mean, there's 40 games that at least. So we will walk through that, but I think that's its own separate college show. So I do have the week 1 games. I've already got quite a few picks, depending on who I have who's playing, who's my quarterback, and what's going on. But I do like some nice matchups. Anyway, anything else? So Profit, they can create the new cryptocurrency based on gold. I think there is one, but it's still digital. And so therefore what's the point? What is the point of a crypto digital gold currency? Just have paper. There's nothing wrong with paper. College football week 1 review. Yeah, I got college football here. So I went through the games yesterday. So I have the games. I still need to know the quarterbacks, but we can at least get familiar with who's playing who the first week and a half. So yeah, that'll either be tonight or another. I'll have to do a separate show for that because there's so many games. And see, I like that we cover all this. Where we cover China and debt and gold and baseball and basketball and everything. All right. Have a good day then. And I hope you like my thumbnails that I've been putting up. A lot of them the new ones are Italy, where we were in Positano, where it was nice. You got the Mediterranean and all that stuff. All right, Prophet, when are you making the video? Oh, I don't know. Like I said, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. No real early. It's not till the end of August, but I'll depend how I feel tonight, but probably tomorrow. This is 3 hours. All right. I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good night. Again, good luck in the baseball and basketball if you're betting it. Be careful. Don't bet too much. Buy your gold and especially buy your silver. You should be hammering that at this low price. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a good day.